Now, Wadau, it's barely a week since we promised to bring you a roundtable conversation to close this matter of relationship once and for all. Well, this is that episode, and today we have on set Kerry Kagiri.
First, I had a comment on what they said. All men are inherently polygamous. They choose to be monogamous. And we need to accept it, and the sooner we accept it, the easier conversations will be.
Well, Kerry Kagiri, for me, is a pure heart. Wears a heart on her sleeve. She always has an opinion, but the one thing I love about her is that she always comes from a pure place. Pure, genuine heart, loves God, and fun to be around with.
People have been in long relationships which they shouldn't have been, because first of all, dating is not in the Bible.
Sana pole pole, because hakuna kitu mtu amesikia.
We also have Jacob Aliet.
Statistically, the older a woman is when she gets married, the higher the likelihood of divorce in that particular union, because a woman like that has high notch counts. Notch counts are sexual partners. She's opinionated.
Chop rice, chop rice, chop rice.
This world needs bold people like Jacob. So I'm following him. I may not agree with one or two things, but I really support what he's doing because...
Tuko pia na Venus Kyengo.
Did you know some biological fathers can come and literally poison the mindset of the children, such that they become trouble to the stepfather?
Venus is, to me, one of the sharpest brains we have in this country.
A lady who is not afraid to say things as they are.
Yani anaweza kuwa kichwa ngumu in a good way.
And Pastor Robert Burale.
If I'm going to marry a woman, I must look at her friends.
What if she does not have friends?
That's also a red flag.
Hey, that's a big red flag.
That is a red flag.
If a woman does not have friends,
That is a red flag.
how? Why?
Also, don't marry a woman who everything she has to ask the pastor. You want to have sex? My pastor says it's not holy on a Friday evening. Be extremely careful.
Sometimes I feel like boiling, and then that's why I started writing. Part of the reason why I started writing.
Say that statement and then say
Yes. I'm your host, Dr. Kingori, and here's another reason to stay subscribed to our channel. Kama hauja subscribe, here now is another good reason to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. We can have our conversation in sessions. We can start each session yasai, and Kerry Kagiri will be joining us later. In fact, there's a segment yanajua of information, the additional points that I said tutaongelea in our conversation zinakuja after when she comes, and very interesting bit of conversation. I told Nani, I asked Robert kama he still believes in marriage. Akasema yes, and that conversation ilikuwa offset. Now it goes into marriage. For marriage to work, there has to be oppression, right? That's why unasikianga watu wanasema in certain contexts for marriage to work, either the man or the woman, kuna mtu amekaliwa. You've been married for 15 years, Venus, and we have...
Excuse me.
25.
Please, rewind.
Oh, 25 years.
I've been with my husband for 25 years, officially married, I think we're doing 22 years. 22 years.
Of course, we have some clarifications to make. There's a video about, and this is the fourth time we're actually sitting down for a conversation. And people celebrated all the others, but kuna some of the things said in our previous conversation were taken out of context. We'll clear that tukiendelea. But for purposes of this conversation, being with the husband for 25 years, is there any truth to hiyo kitu ya lazima mtu mmoja kuwa amekaliwa for marriage to work?
I don't think that is true. And allow me to explain why. Marriage is not a place where you compete. It is a place where you complete each other. It's not a place for competition. Initially, when you meet your better half, there's normally someone who might be of low value, as Jacob likes to say it. But as you grow together, there's normally that need for both of you to grow. So with time, because there are those things that attract you to your person, with time, now you're able to work on your skills, on your personality. Allow me to give a very good example. When I met my better half, I was not really certified in terms of education. I just done the bare minimum, and I just started college. He was a graduate, and over time he encouraged me to study. You see, so it was not, we didn't go into that relationship to compete, but to help each other grow. However, let me say this. When it comes to, because for me, I look at the holistic person, the holistic approach to everything. The man is the leader in the home. And when you look at leadership, sometimes there are places whereby a no has to be said. And a no might be interpreted as oppression. Let me give a case in point. Probably I want to go out with my girls, maybe for an evening dinner or something, and my husband says no. If I am not mature enough and if I do not understand the dynamics of a family and a relationship, I might go out there and gossip my husband or put it out there that my husband is oppressing me. So we need to be very careful about the words we use. All these things that people come out in social media, oh, I'm being oppressed, oh, my husband is physically violent. You know, we need to really get to the details, the finer details, because your interpretation about oppression and it may not be the same. So for me, I am not on board in that, on that statement that someone must be oppressed. However, I would say this because Pastor Kwapa na staki mamishale. Nishagongwa stones that I don't know how I'm still beautiful today. I want to say this. A woman has been created to help the man lead. So by submitting to a certain point, the home can be run in a godly way. And for the stone throwers, let me say this, that the love that a man gives sometimes automatically now makes a woman submit.
The love that a man gives automatically.
If you love your woman, there's a way, and I'm talking here from experience, it makes you submit. It's a way of honoring your husband. But a lot of the times I also feel, because I sit with 80% of my clients are women, I feel that sometimes women become toxic because of lacking that love.
I know of someone who is out of a relationship, fresh out of a relationship, a lady who claims that their partner loves her too much. Like, it's too much. She does not.
Yeah, kuna the way someone anaweza kupenda mpaka una like, apana, this guy, he must be having a secret life out there. And on that note, I think it's very clear that there's no perfect marriage. So when someone presents themselves as too perfect, there's normally, I would like to say, there's something that is not right.
So when someone loves you too much, they become a suspect.
If someone loves you, anything that is extreme, anything that is too much is poison. Did you know that? Even sugar, I'm taking coffee. Hata coffee nikikunywa 10 cups.
So kuna love, kuna token, okay, kuna level ikipita, it's now beyond submission, sasa it's toxic.
How would I put it without looking like I'm not for it? There's a way you can get something that it doesn't have any effect on you anymore. So in psychology we call it flooding. You're so flooded with that thing that you actually become very insensitive to it. So we ought to be very careful on how we learn the dynamics. Don't overdo it. And I think that's why Aliet, nikona the men here, Aliet likes to say that men are not to treat women like queens, because when you look at a queen, you're at a beck and call. Anything she wants, she has to be given, you see. So sometimes too much makes the other person, the recipient, become very insensitive. So you're bound to get hurt, you as a man, because even as you're giving, you have expectations. So your expectations are not met. And that now makes you go at loggerheads, because you're trying to meet her needs and she's not responding to you the way you want her to respond.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'd like to ask Pastor Robert Burale to pick this up from the conversation here. Operation has to be there for marriage to work. And then he point here, too much love, because there is word that has been thrown around. And I think we had Shiro Morioki on the show. Akasema something along the lines, they have been advised. I hope they were always advised to marry someone who loves you more than you love them.
Right.
That's advice given. So what happens to the other person? So if you pick it up from marriage working without oppression, your long-term relationships, na ikitu ya the level of love you should not cross.
Well, there can never be two heads in a marriage. That's why the Bible says, women, submit to your own, not to any other man, not to your pastor, not to your bishop, not to your local governor, to your own. All right? The Bible also goes to say, I think in the book of Peter, women, don't you know you are daughters of Sarah, who called her husband master? That goes to tell you there has to be headship. There has to be somebody leading. There has to be the big kahuna, the macaroni in the cheese. And you come and submit to that man.
It's in the Bible.
It's biblical. And that
My wife should call me master. Iko kwa Biblia.
I mean, I think what the context of that scripture is, I am called master because of my position. You understand? I had a pastor saying, husband is not necessarily the male part or the male side of a marriage, but husband actually means king. So a woman, before she gets married to a man, because whether you like it or not, and I want every woman to understand this, you are submitting under. You can never submit over. So be careful who you submit under. Don't look at the biceps and the whatever and this reward chest. And then when you get in there, the man is not operating in his kingship. That's why Adam was first given his garden to till. We say women are helpmates. So what are you helping the man do? Yet you only picked the man in a club. All he was doing is dancing and giving you deep strokes. Now, some women have married because of good sex. When that man gets to a certain age, the back behaves like the Manchester United defense. It's just letting things go through. You understand? And then you want him to play like Messi in his prime. Then you're like, what else does this man have to offer? You submitted to a man going nowhere. And that's why you see then some women going on social media, which I think is very demonic. And munanika mabwana zenyu, or my husband this, my husband that. And you're being given a cheering squad by your fellow, some women who are actually bitter. So they're using you to bash your own husband. When you join them, they look for another person to bring them to the club. And that's why she said, you have to be extremely careful. Now, this thing about too much love, you can't generalize that. Maybe somebody has come from a relationship that had a lot of violence. Okay? And they never experienced. I know of somebody who felt loved when they were beaten. Natandikwa, and then they have what we call make-up sex. And they say, oh, this man loves me. Then if they move on from that relationship, they are not beaten, they're taken out on a date, wanafunguliwa mlango. That is not too much love. But in the context of where she's coming from, she doesn't know how to handle that. But also, men should also not be sissies. Anything small, you make India. Anything small, you're there. You also have to keep the mystery of a man. We can't have men, anything, your woman coughs, have you choked? You can't. I mean, you're making your wife feel like a doll, like she can't do anything for herself. And sadly, and I'm sure my brother and my sister would agree with me, there are some men who have become like that. I'm not saying men should be mean, but also you can't just run and make a woman feel she can't do anything for herself.
Okay.
Yeah. So in marriage, if there are two heads, that's a monster. And the truth of the matter, the man, based on biblical parameters, is the head. And that's why when Adam sinned, he told God, it is the woman you gave me. And you got to understand, when God put Adam into deep sleep, he removed the rib, and out of the rib created the woman. And after he removed the rib, the Bible says they covered that place and created the woman A woman is a man with a womb man, who came in after. And the Bible says, then this is the bone of my bones, the flesh of my flesh. So the man came before the woman and recognized, this is the bone of my bones, meaning the man had prior knowledge before the woman had the knowledge.
Okay. So before we go to Jacob, asking for concerned parties out there,
Right.
you seem to have information that most people don't have. What's the age limit here, deep strokes? This is information on need-to-know basis, just to know where the cutoff. Where is the cutoff? Because we have people like Akukudenja when you are recommend. Is there a universal age of men? For example, there are people who are unashamedly get married for sex. I've heard, and that I'll support.
Okay.
What's the cutoff?
And that is why people who get married for sex are dying on the line, in the line of duty. When you know your body has refused, you go for the blue pills. And then you die on the line of duty. You can imagine the eulogy. He came and died. You understand what I'm saying? So, for me, biology, it's like it's unfair. When a woman gets to 40, her libido is at its highest peak. And when a man gets to 40, it starts going downhill. And that is why as men, our diet must be key. You must eat watermelon plus the seeds. You must eat pumpkin plus the seeds. Because we are at a disadvantage already. A woman from 39, 40, her libido is up there. Well, a man is going the opposite direction. Yet you're married. You understand?
Why make a pumpkin?
So, I see what you did there. So what am I saying? Knowledge is power. This is not about praying for you to have strength. This is about just disciplining yourself as men. When you get to our age, when you go home, remove your boxers, put a lesolette, be free. Do everything that will support your sexual health. So you don't expect a man at 50 to play like he was playing at 25. That's true. And you see, I'm a pastor, I need to be very careful what I'm saying here. You got to understand, it's easier for a woman to appear strong up to 70 because you don't need to do too much work. A man cannot pretend. If the future has refused to be on salute, you can't pretend. So it's difficult to be a man, but it's a privilege to be a man.
Okay. And I'll go to Jacob. Jacob, if you are loving too much in the context of a legion of memoryism, how do you define leadership in the context of a marriage?
In the context of a marriage?
Yes. Leadership for a man. Because I still maintain, I'm of the opinion based on the observations I've made, it's very difficult for marriage to work without passion. Either msea kaliwe, you just accept, and I think we discussed this. Like I think I gave you an example where someone caught his wife cheating, and he's like, "I know I stay away for too long, but you can cheat. Yes, I know you have needs, but not just with this guy." Okay, so the marriage can continue under whatever context, as long as someone is willing to turn a blind eye to certain things. What do you define as leadership in the context of a marriage for a man? Okay, and what's your take on the idea of marriage for marriage to succeed, lazima mkuwe na operation?
Yeah, I think Pastor Robert has handled that very well. As far as the question of loving too much, but when it comes to leadership, I think leadership within the marriage, it's about providing guidance, at least on major decisions, being a good example, both to your wife and to your children, just in terms of how you conduct yourself, how you manage your business, how you solve problems. Yeah, so leadership is about that, being a source of stability to that particular relationship or union. You should not be chaotic. You should be someone that can always be relied on, maybe for major decisions or for provision of resources and things like that. So that, I think, for me, is what leadership is. When kids are growing up, they should be able to emulate you as a father, as a good example, okay, in terms of how you live your life. So I don't think the thing about operation I don't think is necessary, but you definitely need leadership, because it's just like a plane. One pilot, you can have a co-pilot, but you cannot have two pilots. So in order to steer this into the right direction, you need to have leadership. But I think I also want to support what Robert has also said. Women need to pick men they can submit to. If you cannot submit to a man, don't have a child with him, don't marry him. Because it's very wrong. Sometimes you find someone has a child with a man and then they start complaining about this man. He lacks direction, he's like this, he's like that, but you've already had a child with him. So if you cannot submit to someone, don't get into a marriage with that particular person. It saves everyone a lot of headache.
That's a very strong statement. Women need to pick a man they can submit to.
Yeah.
Are you picking a man you can submit to, or is the man is supposed to maintain a certain frame to make sure the boundaries you set at the start works? Is it universal? Because you find a relationship where someone had the say and then things change katikati. Is this about choice before the relationship, or it's something that is cultivated?
Oftentimes, most relationships don't go wrong, they start wrong. So from the beginning, if you pick the wrong person, it's not going to get better. Of course, the right person also will need to have that masculine frame, and they will need to hold it throughout that marriage so that they can be able to provide leadership. So if he's going to start as a leader and then slack off in the middle, that may not make him the best person to be able to provide the leadership, because it's a lifelong thing. And just to add on to what Dr. Burale said, you know, for men start producing sperms at puberty, but they produce it into perpetuity until they die. So your role as a man, just in terms of providing leadership, being the protector and the provider, it's supposed to be something you carry with you until you die. You don't retire from being a man, from being a leader of your family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tukiwa hapo kwa spams, na tushikanishe na relationship starting wrong. Kuna phrase inasemekana in the manosphere, and I will be very interested to hear what you say, especially now that tumekaa karibu na pastor. Kuna watu wana subscribe to, kwa hiyo 2 point ya starting wrong. Sex first, everything else comes later. Right? Hii process ya dating or sijui 90 days does not apply. Pastor Burale come from a place of maintain purity, abstain till marriage. Sex first, is that starting wrong?
I wouldn't say it's starting wrong, but I don't think it should be sex first.
There's a very common belief. Yeah, ni aje, straightforward. Hakuna ticha kona kona. Hizo vitu zingine you will find out pole pole. But it's actually a very, very strong narrative nowadays. And okay, in this context, starting wrong, kitambo kulikuwa na process ya what led to marriage, right? Nowadays, sex is too available, right? In the that is a commonly accepted belief, sex first. It is so available, na ni rahisi ikue, it defines a relationship. Do you think that has changed the dynamics of relationship, dating, and eventually marriage?
Okay, what has changed the dynamics of dating and relationships? It's a hookup culture. I don't think it's about sex first. It's about having multiple sexual partners. That is what has changed marriage and relationships, and that is what is bringing all this kugongewa culture. Because if you have people going to college or university and they have several boyfriends there, several sexual partners, and then this is a person you marry and expect them to have one partner, then it becomes very, very difficult. So that's what we call the hookup culture. And that hookup culture is a challenge. It's not about sex first, because at some point everyone gets to have sex. But you also have several cases of men who have been told to wait for sex, put a ring on it, and so on. And later on you realize she was also having sex, or she was making you wait. So it's a delicate balance. But at the same time, women can also not allow themselves to be open to sexual exploitation, where someone insists that they must have sex with you before you know them properly, before you know their intentions, before you have you have a good working relationship where you understand each other, you understand what it's about and what you're getting into. Yeah.
Okay. And in this context, the image of women imekuwa attacked sana, where people say, unaona hiyo kitu umesema, a woman can make you wait while someone else anakuchunia maembe kabla haijaiva, si ndio? What does it say about the profile of people? Are certain types of women a wife material to a certain type of a guy, but a naughty girlfriend to someone else?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And it's, of course, it's a challenge that we're having where people tend to compartmentalize. The world has really changed. And I think that is one of the reasons why we are here. The world has really changed. We have modern women nowadays, particularly in urban areas. Kuna mtu wa pesa ya salon, mmoja analipa rent, there's one who does the strokes, there's one who does this and that. So all those guys are in this lady's life and they're all performing different roles. And we have even married women who say they're in the marriage, but they know the husband can't do this. Okay? Maybe he cannot perform the strokes the way he can, but she stays in the marriage and someone else does what he's supposed to do. Or I'm in this marriage, lakini this husband of mine is a broken one, or he's very mean, he can never treat me nicely, can't take me out. So there's another man who does that for them, and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of challenges that we are dealing with right now. And hopefully we can get a solution or a way forward.
Okay. Venus, if you can get in the head of a lady who, say for example, you have 5 people, na kila mtu ako na role, ama a lady in a relationship, let's say someone gets caught cheating, right? In a relationship that they are committed. How can someone be committed in more than one relationship? In this sense, you get someone cheating, but they cry. They don't want to leave the relationship.
I think Aliet has put it out very well. Let me emphasize on the point that marriages start wrong. Even for people to end up cheating, there's normally, we normally must go back to the history. And just before I answer you, allow me to explain why those days, historically, we were meant to keep ourselves pure and not engage in sex so that other things are elevated in that relationship. If you're dealing with a man, you want to know what else can he bring to the table as opposed to just the sex. Because there's a way when you become intimate with someone, it alters how that person. Sex has to do with a lot of undressing and all that. So ideally, even in terms of emotionally, in terms of respect and all that, there's normally boundaries or walls that are brought down. So the reason behind keeping yourself pure was to help you focus. Even in those days whereby when you conceive, this sex doesn't become a problem. You get it? So if you start with sex first, anytime your husband is unwell, utamwacha hapo parking, you see, there's a gap, there's a crack. And that crack, even a house that has cracks, normally fundi atakuja eke nini? So inaleta, and that's what I said the last time, hata nikigongwa na mawe. When you're busy sleeping, umeacha crack, another person will come and fill that gap. Remember, we are human beings.
Unaweza peana example ingine?
Example ingine.
Hapo kwa, ati when your husband is unwell, ati you will go. Meona hiyo kitu wanasema ati never fall for the trick ya visiting your male friend unwell. No man is too unwell for sex.
You asked me why women cheat, and I told you one of it, and these are facts, because I know I got the most stones for that. These are facts. Women cheat because of revenge, and the revenge comes from the fact that you have gone out there, you have slept with another woman. I was waiting for you, okay, in the house, but you did not choose me, so you went out there. So this gap that you have left, if someone is not of high value, they will go for someone else to come and fill that gap that you have left. And that is why we are told that if your relationship is based on romance, that is the same thing that is going to destroy that relationship. We always say, whatever attracts you to someone, most of the time is what is going to do what? To kill that relationship. All right? So we need to be very careful about how we start in terms of relationship. Now, in how we start, what are the rules of engagement? Why are we together? If you ask me why I got married to my husband, I can give you a list of why. Okay? And we have tried as much as we can to grow. Okay? So it is the why. You must know. There are people who get into relationships and it's not for sex. It's for companionship. I just love the way this person is very mature. He is a provider. He makes me feel protected. You see, sex is none of, so it and these things always, have to do with the different personalities. For someone like, allow me to just get a little bit into psychology, someone who's like a choleric, these are the go-getters. These are the alpha women, They provide for themselves. They can, they don't have any issues in terms of economic, whatever. But what they would really be going for is the love. They want to feel that, can I say, the protection that comes with the romance. Because any other thing, providing they can provide for themselves. You get it? So at the end of the day, you need to understand yourself first before you can seek to understand your partner and settle in a relationship. And that is where we get wrong, because we do not seek to know ourselves, and we do not even know why we are going into a relationship. We just get lured, and that is where we get lost. Because when people come in for counseling, I ask them, by the way, tell me more about yourself. What made you get into this relationship? And someone will just start thinking like, oh, no, we went for a party. That is not a reason. I want to hear things like, I love so-and-so because he protects me. He provides. He's very mature. This is someone I can have conversations. Those are the things that people normally go for. But if you don't have like grounding, then it means you're operating on shaky ground.
I subscribe to the idea that people want different things at different times. Someone gets married at, say, 23. This person at 25, they want different things. And you cannot get all these things in one person. So at 25, at 30, your personality changes with time, okay? So don't you think whatever reasons you may have to marry someone at a certain point are bound to change?
They do change. It's not even an issue of whether they change or not. They change. And it is the concept behind seasons. There is time. The Bible says, Ecclesiastic, there's time and season for everything. There's time when you're young, and there's time you will even conceive. There's time you'll be nurturing your child, and your husband may not matter at that point in time. So what we say with healthy relationship is, when you get into a relationship, that is normally the starting point. But as you move, remember the kids, at some point you'll have children, at some point these children will grow. So you must keep on evolving based on the environment. And I keep on emphasizing that we are all products of our environment. So if you're in a relationship that is toxic, then you end up now being toxic yourself. You get it? So at the end of the day, what you're trying to say is that marriage must evolve. You must grow, even in terms of maturity. A man who is in his 40s can handle even conflict in a relationship better than a young man who is in his 20s. Okay? I'll give a very good example. Men who are younger might want to go and hang out with their boys, just to ease up the pressure that is at. Probably the man who is in his 40s, after going through so much and seeing the drama from the wife and all that, would actually call her to book, like, sit down, let's talk. And that is leadership. So from the 20th year going forward, things happen and they mold. And remember, in life we learn, we unlearn, and we relearn. So what we are also trying to say is that even for that man who does not want to learn, then we know the end. But ideally, we must evolve over time. The body itself, I am not the way I was when I was. So everything goes through an evolution, and that includes the relationship. So people must be able to know what they need at any one particular time. Okay? So watoto wakikuja unajua, what does the man need to do at that one point in time? All right? Yeah.
So before I bring Robert in to a question that we discussed here, marriage is a road deal for men, I'd like to bring in Kerry.
Nakato kama natembea normal. I don't know what's going on.
Sway your hips a little.
Okay.
Hata mjasalimia.
Niko na hips.
Sawa. Robert, the last time we had a conversation with Benas, we opened with a very simple statement, and I believe I would be very interested to hear what you think. Okay, you, the last time tulifanya nawe show on TV, you had gone through divorce.
Yes.
Ulikuwa finalized, right? And there's a statement attributed to Jacob. Yeah, divorce rewards women and punishes men. Now, my submission was marriage is a road deal for men, quoting a friend who had broken it down differently. On that episode, Bishop make sure hii episode iko hapa kwa hii card, right? Do you believe that marriage is a road?
I don't think marriage is a road deal for men. The Bible says, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor. Now, it got to be very clear. It does not say he that findeth a woman. A woman is a case of sexual anatomy and gender. A wife is a grace. It means a woman must become a wife before she gets married. That is why men can be dating this kind of woman for 10 years and marries the complete opposite of what he used to date.
Please clarify.
clarify.
A woman must become a wife
before she gets married.
Before she gets
the
married.
Bible says, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing.
Is this related? Sorry,
Yes.
Is this related to the idea that people say that the role sometimes the role of a man is to prepare a woman to be somebody's wife?
The role of father, you mean? So,
Like you date people, they character develop you into somebody else. Yes.
I mean, that's very, it's very now, new age kind of. But the Bible is very clear. You become a wife not based on character development from other people. It is your own value, your own grace, and men know that. There are women who men will never call to go to Naivasha for the weekend when there's a rally. But they are I'm sorry to say this, and this might be very controversial. Men know the woman they will call for those things. Because those are the women who men know can have a transactional weekend. But then there are women who men know this one based on how she carries herself, based on her value system. This is a woman I would love to marry. Some men even in the world, and this is not just a believer's thing, who say, you know what, wacha nicheze kiwanja, and I don't agree with that. Lakini ule dem, uno ningependa kuoa. They are kind of women that men can never take to their mothers to see. A man will take one type of woman. And that is why I would say only one woman can capture a man's heart. Many other women can capture a man's private parts, but only one woman can capture a man's heart.
Do your point is vague? Give us a distinction of these two women, or give us the difference between a woman and a wife.
Now, a woman is based on gender and sexual anatomy. That's why the doctor looked at somebody. They didn't look at the forehead and said, that's a girl. They looked at some other place. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I will say something that women must understand. And I know men will agree with me as much as women may not want to agree with me. When a man sees a woman who is very willing to give, and not to give airtime, you know what I'm talking about. As easy as he got it, at the back of his mind, he will say, if I marry this woman, and one time I'm out of town, this is exactly how she'll give to other men. That is the mind of a man.
Isn't that being judgmental? Because
Life is about judging.
No. I've had a different case. Like there's a woman who would give themselves on the first night to you, but they would never give themselves to someone else for 10 months.
No, it happens. It happens. But I'm just telling you what is at the back of a man's mind. And anyway, I'm trying to say this. In all that, I've tried to say this. Zip your trouser, put Thailand together until you get married. Nobody has ever died for lack of sex.
How much is it effective? Because you're part of Burungo. No, okay. Acha nikwe devil's advocate hapa tu kidogo, right? Do you believe, okay, are we putting a timestamp on this period there, vetting someone before you get married? Like zip until you get married. So you date for a year, you zip till you get married. How do you deal with the surprises after the ring? Right? What one argue? I'm just a devil's
Surprises come again. Let's be clear, because I know where you want to go. Well, that's
where am I going?
You're going with what if the man or the woman is not good in bed? Now, marriage is not just about that. There's more to marriage. What if your husband is very good in bed and 3 years later he has a spinal injury that he cannot perform? Will you leave that man to marry your neighbor?
Go prophet of doom for sex. Unajua wewe ndio umeanza na cut off age.
I'm saying the truth. Paul says you'd rather marry than burn with lust anyway. So get married. But that's not the essence of marriage. The Bible says, I will give you a partner suitable to yourself. to yourself, meaning your character, your aspirations, your purpose. Amos 3:3, how can two walk together unless they agree? So you must marry a woman based on, like Venus and the husband are they're my closest friends. Venus is the complete opposite of Santo. Santo is very quiet, very chilled. If he was here, what Venus can say in 30 seconds, he would say in 2 minutes. Thinking clearly. Wangekuwa wote hivi, one is unnecessary. So it's a partner suitable to yourself. Then bedroom matters is a benefit of marrying right. Now, what am I saying? You can get a man who will excavate you for 6 hours the whole night, all right? But you don't have feelings for that man. Then you will be with a man that you love, your husband. You will have sex for 30 minutes and you'll be fulfilled. Because sex is skin deep. In fact, sex is more spiritual than physical. He's waiting the 1%.
You are out of touch with the real world kwa sababu kama poor performance kwako ni 30 minutes, then that's misleading.
No, I'm just...
Kama kwa ameanzia 6 hours reduce to 30 minutes.
I'm just giving an example. You understand? Now, we're talking about sex. And I think we said it on air, that there is a time when you both get married. The woman is 25, the man is 26. All right? So you're moving with the same age. So when the woman now, or maybe 10-year gap, for example, when the woman gets to 40, even if there's a 1-year gap, her libido is going all over the place. And at 40, of course, the man is going down. So what happens if your marriage is based on sexual performance? If you cannot satisfy that woman the way you satisfied her when you were 25, I still believe there is more to it. When you are 70 or 80 and you're both married, do you think that marriage is kept by sexual performance? Absolutely not. Now that's where companionship comes. That is where now you start reaping the benefits of how you treated each other when you were 40. I was somewhere out of this country and I saw a couple sitting across a restaurant, and the man had suffered a very crazy stroke. But I saw the woman very patient with the man, serving, we were having breakfast, serving and helping the man eat before she ate. I actually approached them and I said, I admire what you're doing with your husband. That woman told me, this man deserves everything. This man loved, took care of me right. It is time for me to give back. You can't be cheating on your wife or your husband in your 40s when you cannot even lift your leg to have sex. Now you want the man to excavate you like they want to go 50 meters deep. It can't be that way.
To summarize, Chenye Burale amesema, the enemy of strokes is stroke.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Bible says, I want to finish with this. I'll give you a partner suitable to yourself. Suitable. If you wear a custom-made suit, it's tailor-made for you at the time the tailor or the designer was taking your measurements. Due to careless eating behavior, you may add weight. When you try the coat and it's not fitting you, you'll have to adjust your diet to reduce for it to fit you. When the button pops out, you don't go buy another suit. You take a needle and thread and fix it. That's what marriage is all about. When he's 50 and he cannot perform, you adjust your level of expectation. When your wife has added a few pounds and there are tires on the side, don't start saying you have added too much weight. Adjust things that excite you and now start admiring her eyes. That does not add any weight.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that submission. And in this context, yeah, woman and a wife, people assume that a good woman anapatikana kwa kanisa. And Kerry, there's a word I attribute to you from a conversation you had with Lynn Ngugi when you said, I was groomed. And I pick a vibe that grooming is not like looking good. Please take us through what is grooming in the context of a church, and it was not in a good context.
All right. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Oh my God. Okay, sasa tuanze. Grooming, hey, acha nikwambie. Unamaka mang. This is what happens. So someone calls you today, hello, my daughter, or hello, my dear. And you're like, oh, I'm dear to you. Okay. Let me give my example. My example was, it was literally 90 days on the dot. Because I used to journal every single day. When he calls me in the morning, checking up on me, calls me at lunchtime, checking up on me, calls me in the evening, right before he gets into the gate of his house. And so up to the 90th day is when he dropped the big one. And all this time there was chicken as well. And there was chips, guys, chicken and chips. Chicken and chips. And on the 90th day is when he dropped the I love you. And I was like, wait. Now, I'm not a girl with daddy issues. I have a great relationship with my dad. I also had a stepdad who rested, and I had a great relationship with him as well. And so this is literally, you don't see yourself getting into that space. And so what happens is that the relationship is so close that you become completely reliant on this person. And so what are you reliant on? Emotional help, prayer support, and, all this kind of engagement where the person is not asking you for anything. These young boys, uko mtaani, they're trying to fondle you, touch you. This is not even trying to do anything. But yeah, we made out once. But it was like, oh, sorry.
It's okay.
The pastor approves. Continue.
No. But this is not a laughing matter. There's a form of relating that becomes quite, I'll say ungodly in a sense, where you're fully dependent on emotional support. And for me, it was more emotional. It was more, I remember during that time also, I lost a very close relative to me. And so this was the person who hopped right in, what do you guys need? What do you need? And so it became it becomes like you're so close. And I remember this one time, actually this one incident, I don't know if I shared it, but this one incident when he was speaking to me and his wife walked up to him and said, the kids are getting restless. And he said, can't you see I'm talking to someone? And I was like, he can treat his wife that way. That's when my eyes started opening. I'm like, who am I? Kerry, you're nobody. In this equation, you are nothing. Nothing. Yeah, so that's what grooming really is. I've tried to explain it with my own scenario, but I need to explain it more with just how someone relates to you. And you know what? Grooming doesn't only happen in church. And there are great churches and great men of God who are just kind and loving and nurturing. Grooming happens in workspaces. Grooming happens in schools with teachers, favoring this one student and just being like, ni sawa tu nitakuangalia hiyo. Amba ni sawa tu una need pass hata nikupatie. So it's not only necessarily, and I just wanted to clarify that because I'm not here to crucify the Church of Jesus Christ. The Church of Jesus Christ will stand and nothing will come against it. But I had that one example and said share it to the world after, let me just count. I have to count it with these parts. I'll try to minus 13 years.
Okay. Is grooming, to break it in language that is easier for me to understand.
Yes, sir.
Is grooming what on Twitter people call fattening a bull for slaughter?
No. Kufattening a bull for slaughter anakukatia, anakumarinade. Kuna kumarinade na kuna kugroom. I think those are two different things. Kumarinadiwa, you kind of know what the end goal is. Kugrumiwa, you don't know. You just because I love you just came once, I love you. And I'm like, you love me? Are you my husband? Are you? It was really confusing because it's someone who's close to you. They've proven friendship. They haven't been, kumarinade ni different. Kumarinade, you know this man what he's asking for. Because the first time he hugged you, kuna vile alikuhug na akainua hapo, unajua kapatika mgongo. Kuna hizo hug za church, but the si poada wacha kuhug watu hivyo. As a matter of fact, si wahug tena. So, unahagiwa, alafu unainuliwa this backbone. So,
Jacob ana hiyo kitu.
Anna, I was trying to feel it there. Kuna vile unahagiwa una feel this person was trying to feel my breast. Virtue leaves you. Usheguzu kasikia, mtu amenitouch wrong. Hiyo ni kumarinate, fattening for... No, grooming is very... And then it's unbelievable. This is a upright, standing human, wife, children, perfect picture. So there's no way I'm entering to this picture. As a matter of fact, my age, if I say my age, people will do the math and be like, who's that guy? But I was still a teen at the end of my name. There was the word teen. So, yeah.
Okay. There's something also you mentioned. You mentioned you have no daddy issues. And I believe Jacob also talks, I think, along the lines here, girls' relationship with the father matters so much, right? We'll get to that. But you talk about your stepfather. So you have no daddy issue. But you also talk about your biological father. Have you shared your story about what happens there?
What happened?
Paul Sana for the loss of your
It's
stepdad,
okay.
but you speak so highly of him.
Yes.
But you also speak of your
Biological dad, yeah. Because he's been there through it all. Like, the fact that their relationship didn't work didn't mean that everyone should move on and have their own life. And it didn't mean that I had to pick a side. I decided, that's what I tell people, decide the kind of relationship you want with these people that your parents bring into the picture. It's your choice. You can choose to be hostile and nasty, or you can choose to embrace them and love them and see the blessing that comes out of that as well. So for me, of course, my biological dad would not agree with all these things I'm saying. I mean, I'll get into trouble for this because he's still my dad. He's protective. He loves me. He wants to protect me. And my stepdad as well is like, you have a father. You know, I remember even the times we used to have a certain conversation and he'd be like, okay, what does your dad think about that? And I mean, that's clear on it.
And did the fact that the relationship between, say, your mom and your biological dad did not work out, how does this change your perspective, or how does this impact your perspective of marriage?
You know, when I saw how they ended up at the end of it all, I was like, this was what's supposed to happen. Because they both got an amazing life and they kind of just prospered and life went on. So I really didn't. Of course, like biblically, I know it's wrong. I know people should stay married. But I think they got married so that they can get me. And there's no other combination of DNA that would bring out Kerry Kagiri. So like, even if my stepdad and my mom tried to have a baby, which is, we're not thinking about that right now. I mean, it would have not, I don't know, that's my perspective of it all. I really don't think that, this is my opinion, please let it not go to anyone else's opinion. I really don't think if they stayed together, life would have gone how it did. And so I had to have a resolution. I remember, because it happened when I was 16, I really struggled with it then, and I was heartbroken. I don't know why I was hurt, but it was like, no, my family is no longer together. And then everyone is so awkward about it. So people don't want to ask you, Mami akoje, Daddy akoje. It's awkward. And especially during that time. Now, I think people are more used to blended families and everything. And so how I transitioned through that was, I had a conversation with my dad and my mom individually, and they really protected each other, like through and through. They didn't try to demonize this one person or demonize this other person. And it was, I really think it's how they handled it that helped me handle it. Maybe that's a good way to put it. However, I must say, it was not easy. And right now I can talk about it that way, but I think up to like 21, I still used to feel like a kawaru, and I think my family is not together, and I used to feel like too much choices are coming out, and I was so sad. And then I saw how happy my mom got and how happy my dad is, and I'm like, it's none of my business. Yeah.
Okay. So, Jacob, Inyako, like the relationship, how does the relationship between a father and a daughter play out, impact their relationships to men after ukishikanisha na point ya a very unfair question I believe I asked Venus, ya past the age of 30, an unmarried woman is a red flag.
Well, we asked about in the previous interview.
Yes, it was unfair to ask her, but I believe you can handle it.
Why are you guys talking about me and I'm here?
No. It's contextual. Yes. A relationship between girls and their fathers.
The first thing is having a man in a domestic setting. When a girl sees the father as an authority figure, it helps her to also fit into the role of a wife, submitting to her husband. So that is very important. And also just understanding what it means for a man to be a protector and a provider. If she is able to witness the father being a protector and a provider, when she comes of age and she has to pick a man or a husband, then she knows what that means. The kind of demeanor, the way you conduct yourself as a man that is a provider and a protector, she's going to be able to make that judgment. She's going to be able to know how a man loves a woman, the way the father treats the mother, the way affection is expressed, the way provisioning and protection is expressed. So now when she's in a position where she wants to get married, then she doesn't get confused about what kind of man is suitable to play that role of a husband.
Okay. Robert Burale says something that I believe is different from what is the narrative nowadays. That if you take care of your woman at a certain point, she will take care of you at a certain point. In Unplugged, I believe, to paraphrase contextually, if you lose your job, your woman will leave you on average of 2 months. There's a threshold of taking care of you that a woman should take care of you. Akipita threshold, as in if you take care of woman past a certain threshold, at a stroke ikikam, they are not going anywhere.
Yeah, so I think the challenge we are having in conversations involving Robert and basically people from a pastoral background, they look at marriage in a traditional sense, but marriage has changed. The marriage that we talk about traditionally, it doesn't obtain anymore because women are empowered. Women no longer need, in quotes, the protection of men. Women feel they can provide for themselves. Women now want equal partnerships. They don't want a husband who is providing leadership. They want to be part of the leadership. And in many cases nowadays, women want a man who can provide them a lifestyle. And that is a modern woman that we are dealing with. So the kind of loyalty that is expected traditionally from a woman is no longer the same. Relationships have become much more transactional. That's why women ask about, what do you bring to the table? They want to consume whatever it is that the man is offering. It's not about what they are offering, it's about what do you bring to the table. So it's very transactional in nature, and that is why we find situations where when you lose your job, then the woman is asking herself, so why am I still in this relationship if this guy is no longer able to provide, or is no longer able to perform his role? So it's an issue of acculturation, and it's a conversation we need to have as society, what it means. Because right now, women who are single and divorced are treated as strong and independent. In fact, it's like a badge of honor now when you are divorced as a woman. They sing songs about independent women and things like that. So, but in the past, the background that we are looking at from the biblical perspective, women of virtue are women who supported their husbands. They're women who are loyal and so on and so forth. But nowadays, women tell each other, you do you, whatever makes you happy. It's about your happiness. It's not about keeping the marriage intact or together. It's not about keeping your family together. It's about what makes you happy. So we've become this society that looks at marriage in a very self-indulgent way, in a very selfish and self-serving way. So as opposed to demanding that people provide or conduct themselves with a sense of duty and commitment and responsibility, it's about seeking happiness. Okay, so that is a context that we need to look at, that times have changed, and that's why the question you ask him about marriage being a high risk and low reward investment for men, is because of what marriage is today, not traditionally. Traditionally, men were marrying women who maybe were virgins, women who are very submissive. Nowadays, most men, you marry a woman who has had more than 20 sexual partners. She's educated, she is sassy, she's opinionated, argumentative, she has her money, she's probably more experienced than you in several spheres of life. How can you have a woman like that submitting to you? That's what we are dealing with right now. So the situations have really changed. And I think that is how we need to look at marriage today. What it is now, not what it was conceptualized to be biblically, and or what it was supposed to be, but what it is now. That's what we are dealing with.
And does the concept of age come into play in terms of leadership for men? For example, people used to be married young, kitambo, 18, and the guys were older. Did this present a situation where
you could tell someone, you could guide someone, compared to today, where people, like we have people thinking about the transactional concept, like even men wanting to marry women who are in their class in terms of financial provision. That's why you'll find people, niaje, a woman is looking for stability because they also want to bring something to the table. They also want to have something for their own. Alafu men pia wanakuja na yao. So by the time you find stability in their 30s, right? And then dynamics change. Does the change in age of marriage have anything to do with the situation people are in?
It is a big, big factor. And statistically, the older a woman is when she gets married, the higher the likelihood of divorce in that particular union. Because a woman like that has high notch counts. Notch counts are sexual partners. She's opinionated. If she's a career woman, her masculine side it becomes very, very dominant. That means she's very disagreeable. She's going to be very opinionated and so on. And that's why that issue of 30 and single becomes a red flag, because in general, if she went to school, particularly, she'll be dating, from one man to another. By the time she's 30, she has hooked up with so many men. So you're probably number 12 or number 32. You are the one now who wants to become her husband. That is the kind of person you're going to be dealing with. And a number of women, every relationship breakup is some sort of trauma in terms of her psychology. And so she brings all that baggage into that particular union. So those are things that we need to think about. And the issue of age, of course, it's very important, because even if you're marrying a virgin and you are a first sexual partner, she has nothing to compare with. You're probably not very good in bed, but that's the only thing she knows. Now imagine you're marrying this woman at 32. She has already seen 15 men. You're number 16. Okay? She has a lot to compare with. Okay? If you last 2 minutes and she has had a guy who lasts 30 minutes, then of course she's not going to be very happy with you. So the benchmark becomes very high. And because also of the various breakups she's gone through, she comes in a footing where we call bad faith, like she's prepared. If this one doesn't work like the other one, I need to be able to exit, okay, without breaking any glasses. So it becomes, anything small triggers becomes a very big thing, and you break up very quickly. So the age is a big issue.
Okay. Nataka utuexplainie kitu ya SMV, sexual market value, lakini before Kerry akurukie, I think she has a few things to say about your point. She's cooling herself down. Take coolant. Kerry, you have a lot to disagree with what...
First of all, hi. How are you? Great thoughts. Great thoughts. So, I know so many amazing marriages that are working that started when people were in their 30s. And they're seeking companionship. I don't know about their sex life. I will ask them. But there are so many great marriages right now. It's just that they're not amplified. So I want to, maybe challenge you. Amplify that, because there are so many amazing, and they're not amazing to show me. They're amazing for, let's hang out and you actually see these guys really get along. I literally have like some sneak pictures I could show you. A couple, like couples, we're just chilling. I just shoot them. Then I show them like, guys, like this is you guys. And they're not trying to act or show me anything. So, correction. Another correction is that people do work on themselves. Yes, you made mistakes. Probably you dated. Probably you did bad manners. I don't have the right word. This show is so PG for me as a saved young Christian girl who doesn't know a lot about bad manners. Yeah. But people put in work. And you know what happens? Is that you realize, yes, I have this scar and probably this relationship didn't work. The saddest part is people have been in long relationships which they shouldn't have been. Because first of all, dating is not in the Bible. Like this, people find a wife. Abraham sent someone, go find my son a wife. There was no let's get to know each other. They were just walking by the river Jordan. In the Garden of Eden, they just bit an apple this side and he bit the other side and they both shared the apple. There was no, like this dating thing is just because of the fallen state of the world. And so because of the fallen state of the world, we're doing the dating thing. We're trying to meet people. We're just like, hi, how are you? Yeah, you meet people. This is the issue. In a sense, what I heard from him, and I don't know if our viewers are hearing, is like when you get to a certain age, you're not like a broken person. And what is that? You need to work on yourself. You have the heartbreaks that have happened, the relationships that haven't worked. You have all that. It's not true. The people who literally stayed alone, have been seeking the Lord, probably have, and even though they're not born again, they've just been, kind of figured out what they want to do with their life. Probably they have trauma that's not even caused by them, but is caused by their families and their families of origin. And so they struggle to relate in a certain way. And so what happens? They take time. And once they are healed and they work on their healing and they work on themselves, then they're still ready. So this is what I'm speaking to all 30 plus material. But we can work, we can put in the work, we can seek. I believe the only person who can heal you fully is God. But probably you don't subscribe to the same thing. You need to start subscribing to it. So, and the only thing I really disagreed on is the whole comparison thing. Like, why are you comparing human beings? What's that about? Maybe because you have the idea, but I don't think, as Robert said, and it's straight for us to agree, but I don't think marriage is all about sex. Like, you can have, that's not the whole fundamental thing about the marriage. It's many things. It's deeply, right now, the need of the world is companionship, like deep, genuine companionship. So if you're 30 and you're unmarried, you're not a flag. You have been, wherever you've been, whatever circumstances have come your way, whatever bad choices you've made, but you can step out of them and you can be able to meet someone and start life and have a great companionship. And it can go till forever. And that's my prayer for myself and all my cuties. Love you, girlies.
Jacob, hii kitu ya, thank you for that submission. Ile kitu ya sexual market value, what does it mean? That's another unfair question I believe we asked Venus. And most men agree with you, most women disagree. Would you please break it down?
Okay, so, what she's saying, the things I'm saying are not just about, it's not just about intersexual dynamics, it's just also about biology. A woman is most fertile when she's between the age of 18 and 25, okay? That is when her eggs are at her prime. When she reaches 30, they're on the decline, okay? Mid-30s, she's approaching menopause, and she gets into geriatric pregnancy. That's just biology. It's not me saying it. You can Google it, you can search on it. So that is just a fact of life. And it also means, for the thing about men is men value paternity. One of the main reasons men get married is because they want to have children, okay? Not all men want children, of course. If you want companionship, that is also fine, the way she's saying. Yeah? But that's a feminine, correct way.
18 million eggs. That's all I want to say. There are 18 million eggs. 18 million eggs. There are 18 million. They're not ridiculous. 18 million only released one.
Sawa, coolant. Sawa.
The thing about sexual market value, I think it's a very important concept, particularly for men and how they understand their relationships with women. I've seen men who are CEOs, men who are doing very, very well. And their wives put them up to wearing, t-shirts saying that, the t-shirt saying I'm the boss, and the wife writes the t-shirt is the real boss, things like that. Those are men who don't know their own values, and psychologically the wife is trying to manipulate them into thinking, this is the best you can get, and so on. So the sexual market value of a man, most of the times men reach their peak sexual market value late 30s into their 40s. That is also when they reach their financial stride, okay? For women, their peak sexual marketplace value, mid-20s. Now, what does sexual marketplace value mean? Sexual marketplace value means if you are taken into the dating market, how is the opposite gender going to pick you, okay? If you take a woman who is 48, who has a very good career, very beautiful woman, okay? And you get a 25-year-old woman who is broke, and you put them into the sexual marketplace for men to pick them, the men will pick the 25-year-old. It means the 25-year-old has a high sexual marketplace value, okay? So that is what sexual marketplace value means. It means what is the other gender looking for when they're picking a mate. Yeah.
Okay. And that's general across board.
Yeah, it's general.
Na hesabu ya majorities. Okay. Sawa. So tumeenda ukiangalia the things technically almost why marriage doesn't work. Wewe 22 to 25 years experience, your story is different. What are the things that you would say have made your marriage work? And what can other people borrow from your experience before twende kwa Robert Burale, pastor na Kerry Kagiri, kwa hiyo matchmaking, especially I'm very interested in something about tribe. So what is it that other people can borrow from? What has worked for you for 25 years? Because kuna watu wana believe kuamkia the same face for 25 years. Do you know 25 years? What is it that works that other people don't do?
Let me say this. And I think we had this conversation in the other show we had. Yeah? When you get into a marriage, there's normally, first of all, what puts you together, the glue that holds you together, and it's based on attraction. Okay? Either based on personality, those who are for strokes, how he came through with the strokes and all that, yeah? But as you grow with time, it becomes more of an intentional move. It is a commitment. It is not about, because we have had sexual value decreases at some point. There's so much changes that go on, yeah? So you commit to go through the many seasons together. So one of the things that I would say has helped us, and we are still walking the journey. There's no perfect marriage. I want to put that out here. There's no perfect marriage. Mtakosana, you will rudiana, I've packed, I came back. You have to go through conflict. But how you emerge after that conflict is what matters. So we are very conscious about how we want to do life. So we are committed. In that place, we don't compete. We complete each other. Okay? So it's a matter of building one another in what we do best. I don't think I'd be where I am today hadn't my husband supported me. He has had his can I say his muscle in who I have had, who I've become today. The second thing that I want to talk about is the practice, and it has to do with everything that we have talked about here, leadership. What are the rules and norms that, people go by? In every family is unique. There's once, I think, tulikuwa tumekosana, and then when my hubby left, I did not give him the usual kiss to say goodbye. And then my daughter, akaniuliza, hey, mom, what is happening today? Like, why didn't you? So as Jacob said it, we are in these relationships to mentor our children, and they see how we do life. So by you not having a way of running your marriage, it's just like, that in your own uniqueness, this is what works. Maybe you guys are, headless romantics, like whatever. That is the way you want to do life. So remember, at the end of the day, you're mentoring these children. So every relationship must have its rules and norms. Personally, I travel a lot. One of the rules that we have, kabla nitoke lazima nimwambie, we are just about to take off, na maybe nitamalizia pale na I love you. Ile tu ka assurance of nini. It is something that we go by. So that is something that I would urge people to, and it has to be uniquely. What are hizi maneno za social media pressure? It has to be something that you like and you feel that, it would work for both of you. All right? The other thing I would say this, personally, I am a born-again Christian, and I believe so much in the power of prayer. I believe that over and above my problems, there's God. So we love to put God in everything. And the word of God is true. It is sharper than a two-edged sword. God brings in the unity. The man will lead, but together you complete this whole equation. And still the word of God says that where there's unity, God commands a blessing. All right? So that unified front where you come together, and that is why I keep on saying this. Sometimes, in as much as finances are known to be the ones that break a relationship, when you're united, it means when someone is down, the other person steps in. But remember, and I want to be very careful because people love to react without really understanding the concept. If this is what you started by, or when you sat down and when you're getting into this relationship, you decided we are gonna be supporting each other, then so be it. If you're to get to a point where by now your husband has become broke and you start telling him like, hey, I'm packing, I'm leaving, then I will put a question mark. But if you started together, it means as you grow, then you're building the palaces together. So it also means that unity is continuous. At any one time, if you start with the unity, it should not be broken. So for me, and I want to say this, I feel that the fact that we have done a lot of things together with my hubby, like there's no secret or whatever, we try as much as we can to sit down and make decisions. He tries to this. I'm also a strategist in my own whatever, but we bring in our creative, minds together and we do projects together. I don't think there's anything I have done that my husband does not know about, and the same thing for him, you see. So that unified front is very much needed in terms of the dynamics of a marriage. Another thing, maturity. Maturity is important in every marriage. Maturity brings in how you handle one another, even in terms of conflict. Now, a human being will always give or have 4 negative reactions at any one time. There's anger, there's disgust, there's fear, and there's shame. Okay? Now, during conflict, these negative emotions are bound to come out. But there's nothing as bad as contempt. What is contempt? Anger and disgust in one room. That is where you see women rolling their eyes, and you see there's hormones in your brain. When someone rolls their eyes, there's something called triggers and pathogens. When someone rolls their eyes, psychologically, it's like, I'm a pathogen, so I'm not needed. And those are the things that, men interpret like, I'm not needed here. And you find now other abuses coming out. So maturity will help you remain stable during unstable times. Okay. A man who is mature, let me tell you, he will not opt to go and cheat because the wife is giving him silent treatment. I will repeat that. Let the stones come out. A man who is mature will not go and cheat because the wife is giving him silent treatment. In his own leadership, with his own leadership skills, he will call this woman and tell her, I want us to sit down. I have noticed you have not been talking to me. I have noticed hata ulihamia ile room ingine. How can we continue building this brand of the Burales or of the Aliets or of the Kyengo's? How are we going to build this brand? Because we are not fighting one another. We are a unit. I will emphasize that because of the leadership skills. Remember, the man heads the home. The CEO of a company puts that company in order. So that maturity is very important. When we get these weak personalities who run away because there's a crack somewhere, then it means then the house will not be stable. So that maturity is very, very critical. Another thing, and the last one, is fun. There's nothing as bad as boring. There's nothing as bad as complacency. There's nothing as bad as ni kama tu, like the concept you brought in. Unakula skuma the whole 25 years. Umekula skuma na ugali. So situongeze kachumbari. Situongeze pilipili kidogo. See, we just spice this thing. So, at the end of the day, what I want to see...
Sukuma ni nani kwa hii relationship? Unataka kujua?
Mimi sitaki kwanza kuingia kwa maneno ya... Wacha ibakie hivyo. What I'm trying to say is that we need to create the farm. So, at some point, I personally encourage couples to travel together, to do things that kind of like spice the marriage. It's not the traditional whereby it's just a husband and wife and mnakutana and there's nothing. Let the juices, let the the spices come. So do things together that can help you create the memories, not only for yourselves but also for the children. Yeah.
2 questions, quick, haraka just to get clarifications from you. One is, ulisema you're a born again Christian. You believe in the Bible in its entirety. Kwa hii sukuma na kachumbari, something tells me, do you support Solomon? Do you believe in Abraham? It's in the Bible.
I saw that coming.
I just want to know how much you trust the Bible. Like if your husband decided to be inspired by Abraham or Solomon for that.
Allow me to support on that one.
And before you speak, Percy, I do not support it.
You don't support
I will always say I don't. I think we had that conversation and there was various reactions, but no one would want someone to come in and take their space, no matter how,
Before Percy comes in, do you think Solomon is in hell?
I don't like judging. I think, the same Bible tells us we should not judge. But since during those times in the Old Testament, there was a lot of polygamous relationships, I think Christ felt that he needs to end this suffering of the boy child, because you have many women, it is a mindset, you're suffering, and you have no place to go and release that pressure. There's always, even when you look at David, there was a consequence. Anywhere there's been some level of a polygamy, let me say that, there's always something that you lose as a person. Yeah.
Okay. Percy wants to support the motion that more than one woman is suffering.
Yeah, because even Solomon wrote that book because of one woman. Only one woman captured his heart. He says all these other things, vanity. David loved women so much that he even told the guys he was going to fight, kill one of my soldiers because I want his wife.
And why wouldn't any other man get the experience of Solomon to choose among many before you settle on one?
Because the Bible is there. The fact that something made it to the Bible does not mean it's permissive. Some things have made it to the Bible to teach us what not to do. He says all these things are vanity. You understand what I'm saying? But allow me to say something that I agree and disagree with my sister. I want to disagree with the notion that when a relationship goes wrong, the man is in the fault. Yes, she has said, as a man, as a leader, you must come and ask the wife, why are you not talking to me? Lakini kusema ukweli, some women are just vichwa ngumu.
We mbona ongei kama ni maturity?
Yes, I mean, as she said rightly.
To be electing you king, take your place.
What I'm saying is, because she made a statement
Yes.
that a mature man would go and tell the woman, why are you not talking to me? But a mature woman should also not keep quiet.
Yes.
Because the Bible says in Proverbs 14, I think, a foolish woman brings down her own house. A foolish woman. You understand? So we have to get to a place where we say, it's not that a man is at fault every time a relationship has failed. Because sometimes, I mean, you counsel many people. The truth of the matter, some women cannot be governed. And I tell men, never marry a woman who cannot be led. And women also, don't marry a man who cannot lead. But we have to understand that with this social media and this new age drive, and I'll say this, and this, let me take some of your stones. When you hear some of these women shouting, we don't need men, they're very lonely when they close their doors. And even some of those men who say, women are useless, when they close their doors, they are as lonely as the Arsenal trophy cabinet. Very empty in the inside. You understand what I'm saying? But just to finish this, let's just be clear. The man is the head, meaning the head carries the eyes, the vision, the head carries the mouth. I'm the prophetic voice. I have the ears. I hear what God is saying. You understand? I smell for opportunities and danger. But the woman is the neck. You help the head to turn whichever way. So if a woman lacks wisdom, You may make a man do silly things. You understand? But having said that, there are also women who step out of the marriage. It has been said, and this narrative must be corrected on this show, that by the time a woman is stepping out of a marriage, the man must have done something wrong. There are some good men, but there are some women whose pelvic movement cannot be controlled.
Exactly.
Let me say this. I want to agree.
Easy here. You are saying you always have a backache because you're always on your back anyway.
Let me say this, Pasi. Let me say this, Kingori. You know, there's always different perspectives to any issue. And we've talked about the spiritual aspect, but I want us to understand that we cannot also act oblivious of the fact that people also tend to have psychological disorders. All right? He talked about women who cannot be led, vichwa ngumu. Yes, we do have women who have gone through, I don't know why we have not brought in the issue of trauma. When a woman has been brought up in an environment whereby she experienced the father beating the mother, abusing the mother left, right, and center, this woman will grow with fear. So anywhere she senses fear, she will react to it. You get it? So let's also remember that
kidogo, yeah, there are women who cheat out of fear. As in,
no, there are women, in terms of, when we come now to the issue of the mind, there are women who cheat because they want to revenge, and it's the toxicity in them. There's something called trauma bonding in relationship, whereby someone will beat you, and then what he said, he will romance you. You'll have the hottest, sex ever, but that now makes you put you in a mindset whereby for you to enjoy, you have to be beaten. You get it? So let us not also move away from the ailing issues that happen or come because of experiences. One thing that I can tell you is, if a woman is really of sound age and nini and she cannot be led, before we judge her, let us try and do what we call a psychological assessment of her. You will find that there's something that may not be work. But I'm not setting our tetea, but sometimes there's normally a story behind it. Okay? But I believe with all my heart that yes, we are meant to be led. But whereas also sometimes, Burale, when a man is not leading, ukiona haja lead, you take up the role.
Okay, so we'll go to Pastor Burale before.
If you allow me, before I forget this topic.
Okay.
I agree with what she has said. But you see, the default has gone, the father must have been beating the mother. Such cases happen. But there are also women who have learned from vichwangumu mothers.
Exactly.
That is
all they did, they saw their mothers insulting their fathers.
Yeah.
They saw their mothers never taking an instruction. They saw their mother saying chakule kwa microwave, ngombe wewe. You understand? So they have picked from the mother. Yes, some, we have men where beating the mothers and all that. But there's also a case where that kichwangumu may have come from a mother. You understand? And that's why they come in as psychologists, we come in as pastors, because there's also something in our family lineage. Patterns never lie. We've dealt with a family where a woman gets one kid and she leaves the husband. Six sisters do the same thing. After they get one child, marriage ends, they go back to the father. So there's a place also for spiritual patterns where you have to check and then deal with some things spiritually, because patterns never lie. So there's a part for that.
I'd like to hear more on your story, patterns, and I'd like to come to Nani. I'll come to Jacob, then I come to you on history, matchmaking, identifying a match, and especially the role of tribe. Kuna mahali nilisikia umesema kitu ya the relevance of tribe in choosing a mate. But first of all, Jacob, you want to say something? And ukisha sema hiyo kitu, I'd like you to, I have an idea I want to propose to you that I know Robert Burale will disagree with. But sema hiyo kitu umesema unataka kusema kwanza alafu.
It's tying up to what she has said and what Venus has said. You see, people work on themselves. And Venus has talked about the trauma, and I think this is important. Many men don't understand this. The analogy I normally give, if you're looking for a dog, and there's this dog that you think is a good dog, and it starts biting you, and it's a crazy dog biting other dogs, biting so many people, biting you. And instead of leaving this dog, you want to understand this dog. Like maybe it has some trauma, you know? So I tell guys, if you meet a damaged woman, it's not your job to understand her trauma, her background. Nobody cares. Just leave her alone. Because many men normally get into relationship with trauma, women who have trauma, who are damaged, thinking like if they love them enough, the trauma will go away. And that's normally a big, big mistake. So that's the other thing guys need to remember. You'll find that, and I think I like the point Burale made, there are even ladies who come from very good backgrounds, okay? The father is there, the mother is there, the father is present, everything, she has everything. Then she goes to campus and becomes some drunk person, sleeping around all over the place. And then she wants you to understand her later on and deal with the damage she has done on herself. So what I tell guys, it's not your job to deal with their damage. Let us seek therapy. It is not your job to become a rehabilitation center for people who are damaged. Many men do that, and it's normally to their detriment.
Okay.
I have
Thank
a
you for
question
saying
for
that.
you.
Just before we continue, I believe that advice is for men. So you say that if you meet a damaged woman or this dog that bites, leave it alone. So can we also say that if women also meet dysfunctional men, can they then leave? Because it's you see, it's the same concept.
Of course.
Whereby if this is a male dog, then the female dog, if it's biting and it's giving you rabies, the same thing applies across the nini. But for me, I want to say this, that sometimes, yes, this dog might be biting people, but there's what we call the veterinaries and all that, the experts. Sometimes doing that damage control can help. Because what is love then? What is love? You know, it doesn't mean, and he gave a very good example, that Leo, maybe something has happened, God forbid, and you cannot perform in bed, and then you're being left because you're damaged sexually. I believe love is greater. It is unconditional. So sometimes we also need to assess what is the level of extent of damage that this dog is causing before now we nullify it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that require, in this context, you to have a degree in psychology?
No, that's why we have shrinks. It's not, me, I tell people, by the way, don't go sharing your stuff out there in public. Talk to people who want to help you, the right people. Get into the right space, because there is no one on this earth that doesn't struggle. And by the way, the only person who is perfect is God. Even as shrinks, we also have our faults. I go for counseling, and I keep on telling people, the best place to have your issues addressed is in a therapy room. So go assess. That counselor, there are people I've actually had sessions with, and I felt that maybe because of the physical abuse that is there, that dog has beaten them, imewatoa meno, imewatoa kucha, naona sasa, this one will die. So you tell that person, you must take off, okay? So the best thing is that let us have a culture where we can go and get help from experts, not just social media. That someone, unajua kuna mtu watu wanamkanga tu hivi, ati hi guys, now my husband, sijui nini, and the husband has not commented. But then the husband is so quiet. You know, women, we are verbal. Amesema amerarua bwanake in public. Okay? But when you hear the husband's story, you actually feel now, this woman is the one who is sick. So instead of going so public and putting your things out there, can you go and first seek the help of someone who is able to help you? And then now make the right decisions, because daktari ndio amekwambia uko na kaugonjwa fulani, una need kuchukua. If it's self-work, work on yourself. If it's you guys now taking a break, going on a reflective journey, that is needed. Mentorship is about lifting you up from that hole, and helping you be able to become stable. Yeah.
Sawa. Thank you for that submission. Jacob, I have an idea I want to put to you, and this is, okay, here's what it is. People say that government employees misbehave, and this is for both Nini. Government employees misbehave because of security of tenure. They cannot be fired no matter what. Contract employees perform so well because of the hope that there is something they are chasing and they may get it. Do you think with the changing times, if marriage changed from government employees system, like ati niaje
tunaingia forever, ameshaanza kudisagree, tunaingia cha forever to short term contracts. Ebu acha tuone 3 months vile inakaa, ikikuwa sawa tutarenew. And then you go to 1 year, ikikuwa sawa tutarenew. And then after a period of time, you agree, oh, now I think tunapelekana, we can have children on commitment. And this comes from a place, I think people don't know the responsibility it takes to have children. Because every time I walk na napatana na mtu homeless, akiwa kwa barabara, I'm like, this is a result of people having sex at some point. Did they know the responsibility of setting up this person? Okay. So if you ask me, I think people should apply to have children. Okay. But before we get to that, do you think if the contract of marriage was reviewed, tuachane na hii mambo ya forever, ikuwe short-term engagements that if it does not work, enda huko, but by the level at which, kitambo, when you got someone pregnant, they forced you to marry that woman, right? And it brought some level of responsibility. Do you think if the rules of the game changed, we would see impact in terms of how people relate?
Yeah, but you see, the rules of the games have already changed, and that is why, and I think President Uhuru mentioned this, I think 2 years ago in Jamhuri Day, or one of those public holidays, that the number of single mothers is really increasing. So marriage is on the decline, and this is a global trend or phenomenon. And what happens is that many people right now in the West are settling for what we call long-term relationships that don't necessarily involve a marriage, because the way people see it is that when you get married, you're no longer 2 people, now you're 3 people. There is the man, the woman, and the government. And the government and the woman are on one side. Okay? So, and even you've seen even here in Kenya, we've had cases where a man is accused of gender-based violence, and everyone believes that this guy is, is a perpetrator until CCTV evidence shows up. And in many cases, we have had many men committed to jail, accused of GBV, without any particular evidence, because the government and the woman always takes the same side. So many men feel that getting into this contract called marriage, it puts you at a disadvantage, because you cannot out-alpha the government. The government is very strong. They have monopoly of violence. And now that particular government is on one side with your wife, and you are on the other side. And what you realize with marriage, everything that a man can do is now criminal. And everything that a woman can do is not criminalized in marriage. For example, your wife can deny you sex. Okay? It's not a criminal for a woman to deny their husband sex. But if a man does not provide for his family or his children, it's actually a criminal. You have to provide for your family, you have to provide for your children. And it's something that is enforceable in law. But you cannot go to court and your wife is forced to have sex with you. So those are some of the changes that are happening in marriage that are making men also review their relationships with women, whether they want them to be actually in form of a contract or to remain as long-term relationships. Yeah, so I think those are just the things that are happening in our time right now.
Okay. I know Robert has a few things to say about the contract, but Kerry, kuna hii kitu, all this can be saved. People say actually arranged marriage have better success than I like you, you like me, and then we try, we see. Okay. In terms of matchmaking, I also attribute something to you. Ya kusema, at one point your parent want you, don't marry from this tribe because there is a pattern. Okay? Take us through that, and if a woman should have a checklist before she settles down to sign up for marriage. Because a failed marriage, in my opinion, punishes women more. In the context of tuseme kama imekuja na watoto, but kwa government, Jacob is right.
First, I had a comment on what they said. All men are inherently polygamous. They choose to be monogamous. I just had to say that. It needs to be out there in the world, and we need to accept it. And the sooner we accept it, the easier conversations will be when you're choosing a mate. Because you could just ask, are you planning to be polygamous in the beginning? And it could make things easier. So, culture and relations and how we relate are such a big deal to us. They're bigger than what we actually think. I have been in so many contexts of people are marrying from different communities, and just the drama that happens within the introduction or whatever choices they make, unless your parents both come together and say, you know what, we abandon culture and we want to serve God. We want to honor your family. We want to honor this girl. We want to honor this man. As long as the parents don't do that, and you have all the other uncles and aunties who even their voices are louder than your parents' voice, then it already sets you off on a bad. So you really have to brave through tradition. And then you're like, at the end of it, you're like, now wedding day. Then you're like, okay, now let's start the marriage. And what foundation are you starting on? So for me, my choice is to be more cultural safe. I really respect my family, and I think it's a big deal if they like you, because those people, God put me there. That's the only thing I never chose. He said, you will have the genes of this one, and put me, and he was very deliberate. And I can see the excellence in the choice. Look at the genes. Thank you very much. Like, you know what I'm talking about. So that's a big deal to me, and I choose to subscribe to that. I really feel like I have tried to date people from certain communities. I did because of my own choices. And I could see along the way how this is not going to work. Just based on their priorities and their choices. I did date, in fact, I bumped into my Luo boyfriend recently. And I was like, are you married? He just went there. Ulio. You know, like I was like, Avera. So I was like about to start anyway. And Becca was a really good relationship. Thank you so much, sir. He was so nice to me. He actually gave me like a car, and I could have been in school, and I was so happy. Thank you. And he didn't try to have sex with me. He just wanted to date me and love me. And I think it's such a big deal to me. So your question on culture, on tribes, I believe my parents know what they know. I trust them because there are things that they can see.
At a cool down.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody give me some water. Please.
There are things that, you see, because of experiences, the people who can see way ahead. And I am not tribal in any way. In fact, in the culture I've grown up in, I'm a super millennial. And within our super millennialness, there are things that we've shaped culture for ourselves. We have grown, but we still come from a home and a family. So you're trying to be like, oh, your mother won't come to our house to shave our firstborn son when he's born. You're like, why is she shaving him? Oh, she needs to see the shape of his nose if he's actually your child. You're like, wait, pull up, rewind and come back against like, what is that? So there are things that, and I'm sure they're very momentary, the moments, and the moments you spend with this person are way more and all that. But for me, I just choose to, let's have the fundamentals agreed on. And we don't have to fight with your mother and your father and your siblings and driving all the way to God knows where. Like, asking the rest is like, seriously, 2 hours. You've reached where you're going. And then now we are here, we have to make it. I think it's it's complex. There are things that I've found. Okay, so I'm going personal over here. Please don't throw a stone. This is my opinion. And I was kind of a stone's throw. I never liked my tribesmen for a really long time. I was just like, they're not giving. Laws come up at you. Like, seriously, Q7, it's like, you're my babe. You should be driving the bigger car. It's wow. It's very worldly, of course, but it's like, wow, A for effort. The other guys from his side, they're so sweet. They're so hardworking. Like, the guy will literally, ata hamna gari, anakuingiza kwa matatu, anakudrop na mat. Anakudrop na mat. It's sweet. My guy would be like, hey, kita moshi wega, thank you, and you're like, so just based on the individuals. Now, I can't cluster one person's behavior to a whole community, but when you see a couple of times and things happening, he mentioned a word. We don't like this word. It's patterns. And if you're like me and you're reflective, where you sit at the end of the day and actually go through, huyo alifanyaje? And mtu alireactaje? Oh, huyo alifanya hivi. Like you're able to see the full picture in your reflective moment. You're like, that's happened before. Or I recognize this from somewhere. So we can't really detach ourselves completely from how we were raised, who raised us, and how they did it. And so we just need to make a choice as a grown-up person. And so I totally subscribe to meeting someone, getting to understand them, know their culture, the culture they form for themselves, but their home of origin and what they do and what they believe in is a huge part of our conversation. And it doesn't have to be a war. It just has to be so you actually subscribe to that. Oh, that's interesting. And get to know and make a choice from the information you've gathered.
Okay. And make sure that information is true.
Yes. But if you're practicing it, it's true.
Robert Burale, Pastor, you have two things to respond to. Contracts, and you disagreed with a lot of...
Vehemently.
Of hell is don't marry this tribe, don't marry that tribe. If you've been attracting maybe the wrong men or the wrong women, deep calleth unto deep. It's not about tribe. They say maybe people from my area must marry. I know it has been said, Luyas must always have a wife from their tribe. So if you marry a Luya and you're a Kikuyu, at lazima tokwe na nafula. You understand? And we used to say people from your tribe will marry one wife but have 75 concubines. You understand what I'm saying? They have said, because it's what I'm saying is, we can't say that culture is bad because yours is not perfect, for example. They have said women in Nyeri beat their husbands. Does that mean all women beat their husbands? Not at all. We look at patterns on the person's character, on the person's family. In our family at some point, until we broke, we had a pattern of divorce. Does that mean that there are some lawyers who are not successful in marriage? No. There are lawyers who are successful in marriage. Does that mean there are women in Nyeri who submit? Yes. Does that mean that the women in Kiambu will all at some point after the insurance has matured kill their husbands? No. It has been said all the apartments in Eastlands are from widows whose husband died mysteriously. Yeah. You understand? They have said that, look at me. They have said that Kikuyu men, when they go to their house late, when the wife serves them food, they bring the favorite child and they tell the child, eat with daddy.
Or a cat.
Or if the wife says, don't eat that food. Now, that is maybe an isolated case that happened. But does that mean that I cannot marry a woman from Kiambu? I cannot marry a woman from Moranga? Not
I
at
feel
all.
like I'm taking out of context.
Take some water. Take some
No,
water.
you're next.
Take some water.
Because what I'm talking about is my compatibility with the person, not what the things and the cultural things they do.
You mentioned culture.
But it's a big deal whether we're compatible
Yes,
in that sense.
it's
Because
true.
I'm getting to adopt that and you're getting to adopt into me.
What I disagree with is some cultures speak as if others are children of a lesser God. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
this is separate from what she said. Like, this is now addressing the conversation of culture.
Of culture, yes.
Yes.
I mean, for example, my daughter is half Luya, half Kikuyu. You understand what I'm saying? These things must end. So look at the man, and yes, it's important to look at the patterns. But before even looking at the patterns, if I'm going to marry a woman, I must look at her friends. And that goes back to what you asked my brother here. It's not about, for you to enter into a marriage, look at your woman's friends, her 5 closest friends.
What if she does not have friends?
That's also a red flag.
Hey, that's a big red flag.
That is a red flag.
If a woman does not have friends,
That is a...
How? Why?
No man, no woman is an island. Then look at her 5 closest friends, and then of the 5 closest friends, pick a negative trait of 3 of those 5. That is who a woman is. Forget even about her putting her best foot forward. That is, whatever she tolerates in the greater percentage of her close friends is who she is. You understand what I'm saying? So let's not enter into marriage blindly. Look, patterns is of absolute importance, but let me tell you, you marry a community. You marry friends. There are friends who will tell you at the first time of asking, leave that man, leave that woman. There are friends who will tell you, no, come, let's talk first. Let's see this and that and this and that. So look at your friends, and also, listen to this very carefully. And I'm coming from a pastor, this is very controversial. Also, don't marry a woman who everything she has to ask the pastor. Everything. My pastor said this. You want to have sex. My pastor says it's not holy on a Friday evening. Be extremely careful. And I'll say this very honestly. Be extremely careful about a woman Who follows 75 prophets? Prophet this, prophet that, prophet this. Have you heard this? Have you heard that? Always on YouTube looking at this prophet. Have you heard this revelation? Have you heard? No. You will not be able to control that woman. Trust me. Where Papa has said, no. And I'll tell you, which camera can I look at? Is it that one? I want to tell women, you cannot say your pastor says you'll be in church by 6 o'clock and it's the house serving your husband. And that Papa who says come at 6 o'clock is being served by his own wife. And then when the marriage ends, you blame the devil. So you, listen, put your finger down. I have some water here. When you marry a man, you're going to date, all right? Even as you look at the tribe, look at the individual and his behavior. His behavior, not the behavior of the greater that tribe. You understand? Look at his behavior. Look at his ecosystem and make a decision based on that. Whether he's Onyango, Wafula, Kipkoech, look at him and his ecosystem, not the greater belief of what happens in that tribe. Otherwise, nobody will marry a woman from Nyeri and they quote the scripture that with long life God will satisfy me, because you've been told they will kill you. Nobody will want, everybody who marries a woman from Kiambu will want to buy a microwave because you don't want steel wool in your kitchen. So look at the individual. I would look at your friends. Who tickles your fancy? Who has your ears? Then we make a decision.
Sawa. As Nani, there's yes, Jacob, we need to prepare something on stepfathers, and I think we'll start with you on stepfathers, the father who stepped up. Alafu, we come to the idea of mixed families, but then you had something to say.
Just a comment.
Yes.
I want to agree with him. Individual is very important, and I look at individuals, but the culture is still tied in. Does it work? So not rumors, not stories. It's for my uncle died. Let's go to Busia. Okay, let's go. I've stepped.
Okay, I'm from Busia. What's wrong with going to Busia?
No, it's great. I went. It's a beautiful place, by the way. A lot of food in the morning.
So distance is a problem.
Oh, I'm saying it's great. It was excellent. Let's move on.
No, you can't leave that statement like that. You have to qualify that statement.
To move on to, I'm qualifying. I'm qualifying. I don't qualify. But there's something you talked about in passing, but we can't let it pass. I'm with you on the following 99 prophets, but you said you can't control that woman. Why are you looking to control a human being?
No, because there's a leadership structure, even biblical.
But leadership is not about control.
No. Listen, if Adam...
I also would want to
listen. If Adam did not have some control over Eve, if he had total control, that's why he was asked and he blamed God. The instruction was for the man. Then he put the blame on the woman. There has to be some level. There is good control, there is bad control. Now, in biblical terms, leadership is control. That is why it is said, even in leadership trainings we do, everything rises and falls on leadership. Manchester United sacked their manager a couple of weeks ago, but he's not the one defending, he's not the one not scoring goals, but he is the leader. You must take responsibility. But a woman who is looking for advice from every man, all over social media, that woman must be put under control, just for men as well. You can't have a man now salivating for every woman and you have to be the object of desire. There has to be, where there is no control, is a 16-wheeler going down the hill with no brakes on. Control is not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
Even God himself is not democratic.
That's what you wanted to. Yes. Just to give an example.
Can I sip some water?
please.
When you're with somebody and you're in a house and you know there are lions outside, okay, or some monsters, and this is someone you're trying to lead or control, and you tell them don't go outside, and they don't want to listen. You can't control me. You see, if they go out and get harmed, it is because they're uncontrollable. So you cannot lead someone that you cannot control, because they must be able to take direction from you. And giving direction is part of control.
Okay, you agree? Are you satisfied with the answer?
No, because human beings are not to be controlled. Neither are men to be controlled. I
And
can't
then I
date
say,
on a
not
great
control.
relationship.
Control is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, in this context, what I said I agreed on. Please get me right. You can't hear everyone's voice and you're trying to go in a certain direction. That means you're directionless. But you're not listening to all these people so that your one husband can say, do, don't, be. Like, it's not, I don't think, as a,
That's my statement.
I don't wake up hoping to have a husband who I'll be able to know every movement, and like it's just a very weird way to look at it, to be honest, in my observation. As a very submissive wife who will always like kneel down for my husband and having
Can I just comment on that? I think
Control is not
maybe-
necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
I just have a problem with the word control, because I feel, in my own view, that should be leadership. It's just leading and not controlling, because the only person who can control me is me, unless I hand over that remote control to you.
That is submission.
It's yes, you submit because there's leadership. I'm looking at it in terms of, you are protecting me, the example is given, so you do not want me to go beyond certain boundaries, okay? So when you talk about control, it looks like you're contained somewhere, and it's like this person is the one who is, what you say.
Can I give an analogy? Can I give an analogy? An analogy is,
For me, I feel it's an issue of men leading. It is, a woman who cannot be led, then is a red flag.
And that's
It's
where
not
he
maneno
says,
ya kucontrol, because control.
But that's what I'm saying as
control
well.
looks like ni kuja kaa chini.
Now, that is how you guys have taken it.
So that's how
That
I do
control
it.
No,
that control is a social media
Manipulation.
Yes, when people think it's that. But even when there's a steering, when there's a driver, he must control. He must take charge. Now, you are trying to steer, and when you're engaging on a corner, the woman is jumping out because he has seen a better car on the other side. Or the prophet has said this, the pastor has said this. Let me tell you something. You submit to your own. And let me tell you, just the way a woman would say, this man who is salivating over every woman while you are dating, I don't think I want this man, because he cannot control his urges. The way we would say, no man, and I want to say it now without fear of contradiction, no man in his right minds, whether you're born again or not, will want to marry a woman who is feeding from too many men.
It's true.
It's just something that we people like whispering, but it is the truth.
I agree.
And even women, when you're dating a man, stop going to say, did you hear what Prophet so-and-so said? Did you hear what the CEO said? Did you hear, my boss said this? And then my brother's friends said this. You never say what your man said.
I have an analogy, just a quick analogy. It's very quick. This is the house remote. My dear husband has come home, and I give him the remote control. Who's in control?
Your husband.
the remote.
He is in control. Because I can change the channel. You're just submissive.
That's what's called submission.
Efficient. Submit.
Yeah, but I think the basic idea, they just don't like the word control. But I think
The Bible also says submit to one another.
That's why I love it.
So we have 2 points and then we close. Number one, the father who stepped up and mixed families, and the money question in a relationship. Jacob, you said something which can be qualified as a very strong statement, that stepfathers are mostly the men who the woman would not have chosen as the first choice. Like they would never date no matter what. And to some extent, I know of a real life example of someone who is a high school sweetheart, and then of a lady they had a crush on, right? And 2 kids later, the woman has given the man a chance, right? So ideally, this man would not have been her first choice based on that example. But then again, we are in a reality of an outbreak of single parents, right? So what is your take on the idea of mixed families? And is it, do you still hold the same opinion of a stepfather?
Okay, I think the main thing is that the reason why you're becoming a stepfather, I think that's where the main thing is, because there are, when you're looking at being stepfather, most of the times when we are looking at this issue, we're looking at our experiences in the past. And in the past, we had women who, either because of being widowed or they had marriages that did not work out and they got involved with other men, these men were able to become stepfathers and raise the children and into adulthood, and they had happy families. But so much has changed nowadays. We have so many women who they end up single for frivolous reasons, like he found a text message on his phone and then you're divorced. And now the issue about you stepping in as a stepfather, there are two things. First, either you're just being used to pay school fees, because these are cases we've handled, so many cases. When these kids finish university, you're no longer required. And many men at that time, they're already invested in the kids and in the family, okay? So there's that one particular case. And there are also men who marry women because these women are looking for like a savior, okay? Someone who is going to take up the burden of raising these kids because the father is not there. So a number of these men fail to pursue their own imperatives. So maybe you find this guy wants to have children, okay? And the lady tells him, no, but we already have 4 children. Why don't we just raise these children? Okay, so you find in those cases, because the biological imperative of a man is to spread his own seeds. So when you're raising another man's child and abandoning your own imperative, then you're not doing yourself a favor. So many men, they realize too late that they were used to do the bidding of another man or another woman. And then you have so many cases where a couple have a disagreement or even a divorce. The man checks out, the woman is left with the children. And you could find maybe this guy is a drunkard or is an abuser or is a broke man, and the marriage ends. 10 years later, this guy has worked on himself. Now he has money. He wants to come back. Many stepfathers are faced with that prospect where you're told these kids need their father is back and is now okay. And many men have lost so many years because we're playing that role of a stepfather. So I think what's important is you need to understand why you're getting into it and be aware of all the possible consequences of being in that particular situation and how you're going to deal with it. Because I've seen many guys, I think I gave you the example of a distant uncle of mine who insisted that because he stayed with this woman for 10 years, even though the husband has come back, this woman is now his wife. And he forgot. He never took any bride price to this woman's home. This other guy is still recognized as the legitimate husband. And so he came back and he took over the family. This guy was given a thorough beating for his trouble. So these things happen. Men need to realize this. What you're having is when you're having this discussion, the challenge you're having is many men are being shamed. Like the real, you can be a father, but being a dad is a more honorable thing, There's that manipulation. And then they are being told the real father are the fathers who stepped up, not the biological dad. But, part of it is also this imperative of making fatherhood a sociological thing, not a biological thing. And that is something that favors women and not men. Because a woman will get an alpha to get seeds of the alpha, and then she gets a beta male to raise the children. And that happens in primates. We've seen, even if you look at chimpanzees and gorillas, they are always the alphas that impregnate the females, and then the lower ranked males are the ones who raise the children. So it is something that we have to realize it's biologically hardwired in us as primates, that lower ranked males are the ones that raise the children of other males. Okay? So as a man, you need to understand yourself. Even when you're becoming a stepfather, what exactly is it that you're doing? The society can manipulate you into thinking you're doing something noble, but you're just being a sucker.
Okay. Kerry,
Goja.
I'd like to take it to Venus, but also amesema the biological imperative of a man is to have more children. Kerry mentioned, na alisema categorically, we need to accept that men are polygamous in nature.
And you had a few things to say about that in response before tuende kwa hii mambo yani.
I do agree with what she's saying, but it is discipline. And for us born again people, the fear of God that we stay with, that's discipline. That is honor. You understand? So I don't disagree with her at all, but it's now what differentiates the men is the level of discipline.
So this is to say that a married man, when a man is married to one woman, is doing her a favor.
No, not at all. Because remember, it's a give and take. Men who marry the right women also obtain favor from the Lord. And it's both sides. But I just want to say something about the stepfathers. And there are some who are very honorable. But where some biological fathers have suffered, and is what he's saying, that when a stepfather takes up a role, it's an automatic demonizing of the biological father. And for me, that has to end. And that's why I was very impressed with her when she said she respects her stepfather and also respects her father and the role both of them played. But we have this thing of biological fathers being looked down upon. And we have reduced, society has reduced biological fathers to deadbeat. Yet, what you got to understand, and something you said about it is easy for the world to support anybody bashing a man until more evidence is brought. Sometimes you have been called the biological fathers deadbeat, yet if information comes out, it is maybe the women who have used the children as AK-47 against the man. But the society naturally wants to bash the man. That's one thing we have to understand. And that is why, yes, there are many men in prison, jailed for a crime they did not commit. We had a very big case here where a man, after spending so many years in jail for raping or attempted rape of the daughter, and when the daughter grew up into an age where she can think for herself, she went publicly and said, "My mother put me up to this." Now, what broke my heart is we were all talking about, let's restore the man, we feel sorry for the man, but nobody said, that we didn't get a major voice of, let the woman be put to book.
Consequence.
And it also, there's also a case in the US where a man was accused of rape. He was plastered all over the media. And when the decision was rescinded, after 40 years in prison, the woman who accused him, while they were playing the videos of the case many years ago, blurred the face of the woman. Yet, she's the one who should have been plastered for having committed a crime of lying that a man's 46 years had been taken away. So now, I'm not saying all stepfathers are bad. Stepfathers there are some who are totally honorable. And some women have been genuine with saying, please come in. But if a man is of age and he wants a child, don't give him the nonsense of, we have 4 already. If a man wants his own, let a man give his seed, because that's what we are carrying. That seed is not apple juice. That seed is for procreation. So if a man says, I want, don't now say, I had 4. What's the point of having a 5th one? Don't you love? Of course you love them. But please allow me to bring my game to the table as well. So pia tusaidie wanaume.
Asante sana kwa kusema it's not apple juice because you've spoken to a certain type of sex. Now, when it comes to the idea of mixed families, do you think people should be alive to that reality, that that's what the world has come to? And how should people approach that conversation?
I want to say this. Blended families, let me call them blended families. That is the way of life nowadays. Because first of all, people are not ashamed to get divorced. And they're also not ashamed to get remarried. So we are finding a lot of, women moving into, relationships with men probably who don't have their own biological children. And yes, they have this wedding and all that. But let me speak about the stepfather, because there's so many types of fatherhoods. There's a spiritual father, there's, they're different. But let's particularly, get into the stepfather. When people get into the relationship, I believe from the word go, there's normally an agreement. There's no one who should absolutely stand and say they were coerced to bring up these children.
But there can be manipulation.
Okay? The manipulation can be there, but that is where your role and Aliet comes in. Right now, we are having men being empowered to make the right decision. So I want to talk about wisdom. Now, there's something Aliet says, and I listened to him speak in one of these forums, and he said that when a man is bringing up the children of the wife or the spouse, by the time they are becoming indisciplined, it's like now these children are not his. There's something that comes up. It's like now he becomes now the victim. Like, you're not a good father, or What I want to say is, from the word go, there should be an agreement. Because let me tell you, especially where families are or couples meet when children are young, by the time a boy is getting to teenage, because I want to talk about men, because men are all about identity. I am telling you, I've handled a lot of teenagers who come and say, I've started taking drugs because my mother has refused to show me who my father is. Now, at that point where this boy is beginning to understand, vidole zangu na za nini hazifanani, nataka, you must produce the answers. And if you don't handle that child well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to now hit on your husband. Disrespect checks in. Sasa, it's man to man. Where kuja? I'm also a man. Let's deal. Don't tell me anything. I'm not even your son. So you start seeing families now cracking up because the truth is not coming out. Can we make it a point to clear the air from the word go? Whereby I prefer if the biological father is willing to handle his own children, let him have the leeway, because superimposing duties in someone who he also wants to sire his own children is overburdening this. But where you say there's manipulation, if you choose to pay for school fees, then do it.
Oh no, there's nothing.
Out of love.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Whereby, yes, don't get to a point whereby now you're thinking, I've been used, ati hakuna kitu. Personally, this is what I feel. If a man has brought up this child, and maybe they get to a place even, where they're getting married, ideally, you're the father to this child. You should be the one to walk this daughter down the aisle. Why? Your school fees, you invested your school fees. It is your values that you have. The father went missing. So when it comes to mixed families, let me say this in one sentence: let us start right.
There's a very good example where a stepfather did a video, and I'm sure Jacob was kupitangi. He did a video in the US where he had taken a girl through school na kila kitu, and he had given that child all the love that she can get. Alafu, now when it was time for her wedding, she and her mother requested that she wants the biological father to walk her down the aisle. Yes.
That was wrong.
And the guy was financing the whole wedding, actually.
The biological, the stepfather. Now, hapo sasa, it all comes down to the girl's desires, because yeye ndio anaolewa. But you can imagine the amount of damage it did to the stepfather. You see, but in my own opinion, the mother should have resonated with the daughter. You see, at the end of the day, because yeye ndio amefandia wedding, okay, he has brought up this girl. All right. So I feel that is where we mentor these children to understand the impact of their choices. She couldn't be doing it out of that thing of like, out of that mentality. But what has been the journey look like? I mean, how has the journey looked like? Mtoto musema hivi, baba ya mtu ni mwenye alimlea. The other one to me is a seed giver. It's biological. But baba yako ni ule amekuona ukitembea when you're crawling and he's been present.
Let's say a stepfather steps up to, let's say, for example, a certain point, and then the biological father comes to his senses. or rather the situation changes, that they want to be part of their children's lives. How should one handle this conversation?
I think in terms of legal approach, you cannot deny a stepfather the right to access their own children. Yes, you cannot. So when he wants to step up, I think, again, it comes now down to up to what point, because there has to be boundaries. Mtu anaweza step up, mpaka sasa anataka ku-access bed.
But kusema
You
kweli,
get it?
you see, and bro, you have to help me with this one. Even our fellow man has said, when the father comes back to his senses. So it's usually the man who is the one. Okay, now, thank you. Manipulation, what I meant is, I dealt with a case whereby the woman started dating a man and told the man, the father of this kid has never been in touch. I don't know where he is, all right? Only to find out the man was living like 4 blocks away. 4 blocks away. Found out, I think, 7 years later. 4 blocks away. This guy packed and left. And they said, he's a wicked man, you should have accepted. No, but it started so badly, whereby he even said, this guy who he thought is an estate chairman used to high-five each other, commenting when he's in the kumbe, and you knew that was the father. That manipulation is from the pit of hell. But also, when a father wants to come back, it shouldn't be, where have you been? There are 2 things that happen. Some men abdicate their place. But I've seen, even on social media, some men have been bashed the world over by being told, you didn't take your place, you didn't do that. Again, what he said, when the other side of the story comes, you're like, this man had tried, but he wasn't allowed access. So then, that's why we bring men and tell men, be responsible. You cannot enjoy the pleasure of the intimacy and then run away from the responsibility that came out from the intimacy. So we raise men to be like that. But also ladies, please talk to your ladies. Wambieni wacheni hii tabia kila pahali. You know, I hear women saying, don't worry, it's only us who know who the real father is. As you say that, there are young girls who are listening and watching you, whereby when you make the abnormal normal, then we have a messed up society.
Okay, I know if I ask Jacob this question, the answer will be a yes. But in the shortest terms possible, what do you have to say in the context of what Venus has just described? The idea that the owner of the well does not queue.
Does not queue, what do you mean? Just be direct.
The owner of the well is the biological father, does not queue for.
As a biological father and a stepfather, so in that context, the owner of the well is the biological father. He does not queue for water. Because Venus was, as she was finalizing her point, she said that boundaries, the biological father may want to go overboard with access. But there's also now, that's where the owner of the well...
My take is a biological father should not be denied access unless he's a threat, he's a drug addict, he's what, so some things must be put in place before you allow them access.
To the well.
No, he has not understood.
Oh, to the woman.
You need to explain.
No, just be direct. You're trying to say, if the man wants to come back and wants to have some sex, let me tell you, it happens. There's something very dangerous that commonly happens. You know, I'm still a pastor, so I think my mind has been washed.
Come on.
I know that. So there are men who want to come back and for old time's sake, have a little something. That is responsible for both sides. Because maybe there are women also who say, yes, for old time's sake, let's do it. I don't think it is right.
It is not right.
It is, listen, the woman has moved on. Respect. But I'll say this and may be very controversial. The truth of the matter, the woman is the one who plays a major role on that one. Because some women may give the ex, you know what, just come, you know. You know, the man's, we are very physical. I did a play and I was acting and my line was, how can a man say no to a woman? Is that not a taboo in high school? You understand? So a woman is the one that must set the larger part of the responsibility is her setting the boundary. You know why? Men are natural hunters. You understand? That is why a lioness comes and positions itself, knowing very well when a man picks the cue, he will eat like Indomie. You understand what I'm saying? So let the boundaries be there, because even women must respect their stepfather or their new man. You understand? Respect your new man.
And
Pia
to
wanawake
add
saa
on
zingine
to
mko-
what
mko-
Burale is saying, it's just not even about the boundaries for sex. It's also the boundaries about influence. Did you know some biological fathers can come and literally poison the mindsets of the children, such that they become trouble to the stepfather? So those boundaries have to be made. I see a lot of couples who are trying to bring up Nini after separation. There's normally that just distance, that a gap. They hardly meet. Maybe mtoto anadropiwa na Uber and all that. So they create that to avoid some of these things coming up or showing up later. Because by the time unapeleka you and I happened, and then I'm coming to your house to bring the child. At some point, the hunters will hang.
Yes, asante sana. Kerry, I have to give you props because you're a beautiful story in the context of a mixed family. Stepfather, great, as in, by the 100%, that is proper props. And we enter the last segment of our conversation, Tufunge. How important is the money conversation in a relationship?
Let me start with, I can't really take the credit. Let me give my parents the credit for how they handled it. They just handled it really well. They're just like, between us, we can't. You guys are free, call your father. My mom never blocked us from our dad. Our dad never blocked us from our mom. I mean, they really handled it with so much grace. Maka you're like, sasa mimi nikijam, najamia nani? Like you, yeah. So that was really cool. Money, growing up, money was a really big conversation. I think I shared this when I was about 13. I'll never forget. My dad had promised to buy me a phone after I finished class 8 and when I do really well. And at that time, he wasn't able to do it. And so I went to my mom, like, Mom, Dad, he promised. And I went back to my dad and they're like, let's sit down. Let's have this conversation. And they told us exactly where they were at. So this is my dad, my mom, my sister, and I. And we're sitting down in the living room. I never forget this. And my dad said, so I'm transitioning from full-time work. He is auditor, accountant. And I want to do business. And this business is looking really good. And your mom is going to stay in the full-time job, which is worked up to her retirement next year, which is super exciting. And so because of that shift, we're not able to afford what I promised you right now. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, yeah, fine. Whatever we can, we will. But then there are times when those conversations are not had and you're just like, what's going on? And so as children, you don't really know what's happening, but you can tell there's something. You don't know what it is. And so I think money conversations really help the whole family. And as I'll say, let me speak as a child, because that's really what my last most important role was before I became an adult. And I don't want to be an adult anymore. Anyway, let's just talk about it. It was very, very important for me to see people actually say, we don't have money for this. We're working towards this. This is what we can afford. Like going to the store, literally, it used to be Omo, Toss, Ariel, Sunlight. Which one can we afford? And we all answer the most affordable one for that moment. And so for me, that really helped healthy conversations. It lifted up the air. We just all knew where we were at. And when we were doing well, we know we could still eat ugali. And then my dad just goes to the boot and pops it and there's a pizza after. So I lived like not eating too much ugali. I'm like, maybe today there's pizza, maybe today there's pizza. And then you go to bed hungry, and you're like, maybe there's a surprise. So I really think it's very important to be comfortable with money. And that starts even in your single journey. Like right now, knowing yourself and leading yourself and actually building finances for the lifestyle you want for yourself and the lifestyle that you think you can afford. So money it's not the worst thing. And I think, let me just bring this point. I don't like how men behave when they don't have money. It's very, they really misbehave. Not broke, that's not the word I was going for, I promise. A man who's like doesn't have resources really misbehaves, and now you have to kind of shrink and behave in a certain way.
How so? How so? Please explain.
I feel like there's a sense of irritability. There's a sense of and it comes off. It's like, can we do this? And instead of not this time, or we can't do it right now, it's you always want to do this. Like it's more of like you could have.
Maybe it's the men you
dated.
dated.
No. See mimi could date. Me naongea juu ya other people. Me, as a matter of fact, mimi nimekaa single for a while.
Where are those people? Who are they?
Niweleze.
Yeah, because you cannot paint us with one brush.
You guys have been painting us with one brush the entire show. Please change your brush. Kwanza you've been mixing the colors. You just get into this paint. Ata rinse.
Sawa.
Y'all have been doing that this whole show.
Sawa. Ona, men behave irritably when they don't have money, right?
Yeah, or just they're kind of funny.
Okay, this begs the question, what's a man's financial responsibility in the dating scene? Yes.
So, I think it should be clear. So, I've gotten to a point right now where I'm at, and I don't know if it's working. I'm just being vulnerable here. Please don't jump on me. As everyone here is way older than me, let me just share, okay? So, when I'm going on a date with someone nowadays, I ask them, are you paying? Because when they pick a place, I believe when you pick a place, you pay. So, if I pick a place, unless they've categorically said, I really want to take you out, you pick a place, I won't assume he's coming to pay for my food. And this is based on experience, but also I also want to meet you, like we all want to hang out and have a conversation. It's mutually exclusive for let's do this thing. So the responsibility begs on his upbringing, how he views himself, how he views his role in the future. I've met people who naturally will be like, yo, come and meet you at this place, and they'll want to either fuel or pick you up and get you there. So I think it's the internal nature. There's nothing that's set on stone like, to be with me, you must. And you asked me about a list earlier on. I don't think there's any specifics on it. Because I believe, first of all, money happens in seasons. There are seasons when I don't have money. There are seasons when he won't have money. So it can't, the whole relationship can't be based on, ain't nothing going on but the wind. You gotta have a J-O-B if you wanna be with me. You know, so no romance with the bonnets.
That's the question that comes to you, but Melissa, your point?
So I don't think there's, Pastor, I'm sorry I listened to that song. I had it in the radio. I'll just,
okay, I have anointing where I pray for your
fine. So just had, so what I'm thinking is, and what I really feel about it right now in the stage of my life I am in, is there is no specific, if you're dating, see, take up my rent, take up my this, get my whole family out of poverty. Like, that's not
But that changed. Did you have a different opinion before? Like, have you changed?
I was a bit foolish, and I didn't have an expectation for, like, if you've invited me somewhere, automatically you pay. But no, it's just so easy. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, are you paying? And I check out the menu of the place earlier, or just to kind of know what's going on, because being good with money is an important thing, because you know where we're at. So there's no necessarily, and right now I don't have kids, so there's no like, you come into my life, take up this. It's really who the person is and the quality of the person. And also, how do they want to show up for themselves before they're showing up for me? How do they want to show up? And so, yeah, I've met people with real good TLC, like, are you okay? And I'm like, okay, so I did a bad test on someone and we just ended that relationship immediately. And I thought he was a Masimba. Anyway, so this guy, I had like my car, I needed to do something on it. I didn't know it was urgent, and my mech was like, yo, this needs to get did, this needs to get did. And the whole thing came out to like 47,000, like on the spot. And I'm like, Sasa uncle talk to the professor, And so I'm like, hey, but I'm here, I have my moti, and this is what's happening. And this guy goes like, he sends me a full receipt of his current payment that he needs to make for his car as well. That was his response to me. Like, I also have this. And his was coming to about 300 and something thousand. And I was like, what are you saying? Like, I don't get, what was he communicating?
Like, he has bigger things to do.
Yeah, you're not his wife.
That's brutal.
You are not happy with the response ya mtu kukutumia bili yake ya 300k, they just telling you they hata wao wana handle a similar thing. Had you gotten there in a relationship like Jacob anasema akoshua hata mko mmesmash, is that too much to ask?
I wasn't even asking. I think if you're trying to build a friendship with someone, there's more thoughtfulness that would go into your response. It's not about showing me that, you know what, I have bigger fish to fry. And this was literally, I was not really asking, like, it just, that happened and we are talking. So I'm like, yo, udava menitumia. You know, and I'm also thinking, like, how will he respond to this in a sense?
Your message to him deserves the response.
It's fine. That's what I got. That's what happened. And guess what? Guess what? Your girl has a money market fund. And that's what for emergencies. And so I was like, yo, fix a car, I'm going to pay you. And I paid it. But it wasn't all about, you know, getting him. You know, I need someone to take care of me. I can't afford the car that I bought. I can't do the things that I need to do. It was just that moment. We are there. We are uku. We are talking. But guess what? We ain't talking no more. Boo-bye.
Okay.
So it's his loss.
No. It's just not the right person, and it's fine. I'm a child of God. All my steps are ordered by God. Don't worry about me, sweetheart.
What if he said you are not the right person as well?
Good. Thank you. Problem solved. 3 years, time cut short.
Okay.
Thank the Lord.
Jacob, what's the threshold of boyfriend responsibilities? Before you utuambie point yako ya step further, alafu tufunge hiyo money question.
Yeah, first I agree with that. Normally, if you're proposing, you meet somewhere, you should be the one to foot the bill.
Okay.
I think that one is agreeable. But the idea of a lady, a girlfriend, for that matter, posting for you, sending for you a bill, a car bills for you to pay, I think it's disrespectful. And I think the best response is just to block someone like that. You don't even need to respond, because that shows that that relationship is going to be exploitative, and it sees you basically as an ATM.
Okay, she was just testing the waters. She was not asking for the money.
But the testing is good, and we normally call them S-tests. A testing is a way of communicating how she sees you, because she's putting you in a situation that makes you look like a beta male, okay? Like you are a beta male provider. So a woman who sees you like that cannot respect you, ever. Because it means there's no sense of reverence towards you. She can put you in a position where you're taking a burden that you shouldn't be taking up.
For fairness sake, if he had sent you the money, if you had sent the bill, like 47K, and then he sends you the money and you are just testing him, would you have taken the money or would you have returned it?
Okay, first of all, guys, let's put this whole conversation in context. I'm talking to you right now, and like we're talking, this guy has my car. He sent me, this is the bill. I'm like, yo, bill. I mean, to be like, it's shocking me. I was shocked. I was like, I just thought it's regular, like pour oil. So it's like, no, spark plugs, I don't know what, you know, just the things they add. Probably even, they were not even changed. You don't even know. And I'm talking to you at this moment. So I'm like, yo, this thing has come up to 47,000. And then I send you like honestly vitu zote anasema there was no even concern for but the koloko umechangizo or you know like concern, you know, even first of all you can even try and reduce the bill for me for like Ebu, let me talk to your mech, ama let me do something. Like you think the person would step up into whatever, like no, if you sent me that, like if he sent me that, maybe he was going through that, I would be like aya bele calling nini, like you know, like concern, like it's not immediately this is what's happening, and immediately it's like I did. In fact, let's just open the message.
So, as in, the guys...
What Andikani? I just want to see the context of the conversation, because I'm even now gaslighting myself. For
Give us the context by saying you're testing.
Nisaidie nahi.
So the guy...
Na angelitumia bede ningemrudishia. Hiyo ni pesa mingi for such a person na ile job anafanya anyway. Like ningemsaidia.
You're already entitled. You're feeling entitled twice.
What? I'm just saying ningemrudishia, like ningemsaidia pia.
Look, we really see you are the minute. You have downplayed the man's ability.
You will say Vaje?
So now...
So I need to read the whole context of the
boyfriend responsibilities. Hapo kwa boyfriend responsibilities, how far should a man go to maintain your frame na usikue pia bitter.
I think you just need to understand. You know, what we normally say is that relationships is where value is exchanged or transacted. And what we normally call simping is an unequal exchange of value. So, for example, if a woman is sending you a bill of 47K, you've not even what are you getting? You know, we as men, we have to look at the ROI. What is the return on investment? Thank you. She just going to tell you thank you. Like you are proving that you are a kind man by spending 47,000 on a vehicle that you don't drive.
How did this become the conversation we're having on this show?
Give examples in a different has in context.
Yes, so I think that I think is the point, because it also goes into what we call negotiated desire. There are many men who think that the way to get a woman to love you is by taking care of their bills and things like that. And this woman is not even your wife. So negotiated desire is never genuine. You will not get genuine desire from that.
So, hii part ya responsibility, as long as you're not married, everything you do is transaction. Now you're measuring it as return on investment.
No. I'm just saying there should be some equal exchange of value when you're dating.
Shabadi, in this sense. Like, would you advocate for a man who truly loves a woman and the woman who truly loves a man to have exchange of other things away from sex?
Exchange of other things?
Yeah, as in, what's the value for the man away from sex from a woman?
What's the value for the man?
What value does a man get from a woman apart from sex, from the context that you're explaining, at the equal transaction of value?
Okay, it depends whether they are having sex. Are they having sex?
No, they are not having sex. That's when nataka kuona hii ya kitu wewe umeshtuka in the context, not for Kerry's example. Hers is in context, she has explained. But the idea of, vile umeshanga, someone asks you for a bill of 47K and you've not even smashed. So if they had smashed, 47K iko sawa. That's what you're saying.
No, but when a woman exposes her body to you and takes the risk of getting pregnant by having sex with you, then it shows some degree of commitment and submission. Okay? In the sense that she has actually taken some risk. She's putting her life on the line, in quotes. But a woman who has not even done that, I don't think there's any reason to even take her seriously.
A woman who you've not smashed, there's no reason to take her seriously.
Why would you pay for her bills?
Or smashing is where men draw the line.
At least for there's some exchange of value.
What is the other value of a woman in your reasoning? Because I'm really curious.
Can I just comment on that?
Because it can't be in a person's interaction. Time spent, value begins with that. I really think people are way more in both ways. Because now that's becoming more transactional than relational. And what are we transacting?
The only reason we call those things heterosexual relationships is because sex is involved. If you're not smashing, you're just a girlfriend.
Is it wrong to just be a girlfriend?
You're not a girlfriend. She should get a girlfriend if she wants.
Let me say this though, okay? I like that example that Kerry has given. And, in every relationship, even as people try to date and all that, what we see is personality, values. The transactions here are quite a number, all right? So for someone who is a giver, that would have been very easy. You get it? So the only thing is that she was dealing with someone who, maybe has what Jacobs is saying, like, maybe amekuwa empowered in such a way that maybe their thought patterns is different. But if probably she was dealing with a man who is such a giver, in terms of personality, they wouldn't have really minded wangepeana. But again, we also say we cannot impose what we want on people we are dealing with, okay? Because that is what is manipulation. Like, nilikutumia hii bill, you didn't pay, so you cannot be my boyfriend, you cannot be, So what I'm just trying to say is that we also need to understand the dynamics that comes with the dating scene. in that place, you need to also now, as you experience this thing, it was for her to decide, do I really want to continue befriending this person based on that kind of transaction that happened? So we need to be open-minded, okay? As we are dealing with the situations that present themselves, let us also be able to have the wisdom to make the right decision. Because fast forward, if they're to get married, alafu mse amwambie, sitalipa school fees. Why would she start reacting and anikaring this guy? Yet, during that time when she wanted the 47K, he did not show up. So let us also learn and pick as we expect.
Can I also iPhone more context on our chats? Just one more for that one. Zimwaniki, by the way. In any ways, Kwaniki, bro. But he didn't come for any funeral meeting for my dad's funeral thing. He never gave anything.
Unamwanika.
Oh, sorry.
But can need to clarify, yeah? What you need to understand. Okay, first, let me clarify on that. A man who says no to you when you are trying to take advantage of him will probably be a good husband for you, because it means he can protect the family resources from exploitation. From exploitation by the other women. Because you see, we have this man, this guy is married, but he has either a side chick or he has women on the side, and he blows all his money on these women. That's a guy who cannot take care of his family, just because he cannot draw boundaries. So a man who tells you no in a situation like that is a man who can draw boundaries. And the other context is this. What is this woman doing? You need to be able to understand the sexual marketplace. The situation where most women were remaining virgins until they are married, it's like it's a past thing. So if you are paying this bill for this lady and you are not smashing, it means someone else is smashing and not paying any bills. Now, do you want to be that guy? That is what the guy needs to ask themselves. So, unless this woman is a virgin, then don't look at it from a situation where if you're giving it, you'll be noble. It will not be an act of nobility. You'll be a man who is becoming a sucker, and she'll just disrespect you. Yeah.
Aye. So, but just for clarity, Kerry's example is in context, and the examples Jacobs are giving are in the real world peer, in context. Yeah, how people relate. That's very important.
But you didn't answer my question, and I think you also should answer it. Is the value of a person and the relations that people have based on what they can give you or who they are?
She answered it very well.
Ansema nini?
No,
rudia tu.
Like, you shall listen to it. But she said it could be somebody's personality. Maybe that person is a giver. They would give without thinking much into it.
I got that, but was that a response to what I'm asking? Because according to him and according to the world in context that we're apparently living in, if you're not, you get what I'm saying? Like, he's rubber stamped. I know there's a generosity of the person and there's a core of the person. And I think that's something I emphasize as well. Who is this person? How do they show up for themselves? How do they show up for their family? How do they show up for you? How do they show up into a friendship? But now, like, his conversation is coming towards, I'll answer this question, but are we smashing? Like, what?
Oh, yes, Jacob, to explain how I also understood what he says is, if someone, let's say, for example, asks you for a favor, right? You give this favor based on what they mean to you, right? For Jacob, he says it is sex. Like, if it's a man and a woman, it is.
Oh, Jacob, it's not the world we're living in.
Okay, it's the world we're living in for the most part, because many people subscribe to the.
I'm calling on a 40-day prayer and fasting, because that's not the world we should live in.
But that's the world we live in today.
That's a sad reality.
Okay. We need to close on this. Kwa hiyo mambo ya responsibility, alafu Jacob utafunga na your stepfather points ya kumalizia na hapa. What are boyfriend's responsibility financially?
First and foremost, I never sit and lie that I'm an expert in finances. I'll be very honest with you. But any couple must operate with each other based on the long-term, mid-term, and short-term plan. Yeah, there's a way you can tell this is going far. But you cannot meet a woman or a man on a Friday and start discussing things that you should be discussing 5 years from then on. So based on how you're seeing the relationship going, then you can say, I can invest here. You understand? So that is not a general thing. It's a very targeted thing based on two individuals. You understand? Like for her, she said she tested the guy. Now, the guy failed according to her. But also, the guy said the woman has failed according to me. And that is why today you guys are not together. Somebody else would have given you the 47K because based on how you have handled each other, you have almost given him an impression that 5 years from now, you may still be together. So it depends on two people.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautifully explained. Kerry, there's something ulisema, yeah, ati I'm this X years old, I don't have kids, okay? That's a very powerful statement in today's context. I'll be very interested to know if it's deliberate. Kama umejipata kuna inaitangwa pregnancy scare, ama it has been a deliberate choice. Mpaka sahi, you have not had kids for anyone. But before that, Jacob, hii mambo ya JOB, which she sang about, should men have a threshold? Yeah, ati niaje, I'm only dating someone who has a job. You said something about ati men can marry down, women cannot marry down. We discussed that with Venus, okay? But should it be a standard? Hiyo kitu ya what do you bring to the table? Should men also enter the dating scene or the mating game with that in mind?
Yeah, actually, I think that's one area where men have failed. And it has put us in a lot of difficult situations where you commit yourself to a woman who, in terms of social or economic class, there's such a huge disparity between the two of you. And that's why we get what we call economic refugees. You will find a man is involved with a woman who he has to educate the brothers, the sisters, build for the parents, and so on. In many cases, those relationships don't end up well. You'll find after you've done all those things, then it breaks up and you find you've given in so much, you've contributed so much. So it's normally advisable, get someone at least who is closer to you in terms of the economic class and even education. And now even with the age of social media, it is really, really important to be with someone who has what we call something to lose, okay? And I think we've seen cases of politicians where you get involved with some ratchet girl who takes photos of you and then puts them in social media to embarrass you. So it is important to have standards for that particular matter so that there is some value, there's some transaction that is taking place, not just one way giving of value or exploitation.
Okay. So very quickly, your point on stepfather, before we go to Kerry, on the decision to deliberately have kids.
So the point about stepfathers, there's an evolutionary psychology perspective of it where ladies, for the most part, when they open their wombs to a man, it's because they want to have their seed. And that man has to check particular boxes. So I've seen cases where stepfathers step in, but in terms of either lifestyle achievement or finances, they fall so much below compared to the biological father. That's why we say that the owner of the well does not queue for water, because if this guy comes back, you're swept away so easily. And this guy has imprinted himself. He already has biological children with this particular woman. So you find that in terms of your place in the scheme of things as a stepfather, you are in a very weakened position. So those are things that men need to really understand. When you're becoming a stepfather, you need to understand who was a biological father. We have, I think Vina has mentioned an example where you will find like you as a stepfather, you probably have even kids with this lady, and you're going to what we call polling center schools or the government schools, and the biological children will end up bribing and so on. And it creates a huge conflict between these children, because the disparity in terms of class creates a huge conflict. And many times when the man starts complaining, many ladies will tell you step up. That guy is taking care of his kids. We pia ni mwanaume, we pia ng'ang'ana, unaona. So many men have found themselves in those particular situations, and it becomes very difficult for them. So we deal with guys who are depressed, who want to commit suicide, who are alienated from their children because they are playing stepfather. So it's something that you need to play. That's a role you need to play after careful consideration. Yeah, because if you are a very weak man as a stepfather and the owner of the well comes back, he's not going to kill.
Okay. Asante sana. Kerry, that's a very strong thing you say. Ati, I'm this X age and I don't have kids. That's a rare thing nowadays. My friend Butita was recently on record complaining that he's being priced out of the market because everyone has children. How have you arrived at the decision of consistently deciding that I'm not having kids now, over and over again to this point?
It's just my pursuit in my faith. I have really trusted God to set up a family that includes walking in purity, which is a really difficult thing, but it's possible. And I've really sought, literally, I can't take credit for it. I have really sought God and I've asked him to help me. I have had to do 1 Corinthians 6 verse 18 to 20. Flee. That's in between flying and running from sexual immorality. All other sin a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. I have had to literally have very strict boundaries with people I try and date, because I know that I am very, very healthy. Sometimes I feel like boiling, and then that's why I started writing. Part of the reason why I started writing.
You cannot say that statement and then say that he...
What you want to say?
Kawind ikikuchapa, hiyo ujinga inatoka, then you come back, you're like, oh, okay, I'm fine. So it's been God's grace, his mercy. It's been constant pursuit of God so badly. Like, I'm like, God, I love you more than I want to eat this thing.
Do you know, it's funny that you credit your protection from sexual immorality to riding, inaenda hapo, to motorbikes, riding. The same dudes are being blamed extremely for sexual immorality.
I think what she's credited first is the word of God that says flee. Now, fleeing means different things to different people. Somebody's idea of fleeing is playing golf, meaning that's your free time. So golf is 6 hours. If you're left to your own devices for 6 hours from 6 o'clock in the morning, you'll be chewing women left, right, and center. To her, it's riding the bike. You understand?
But I got the question he's asking. He's like, the Ndudi has been blamed for a lot.
But that's what I'm saying. It's different. You see, it's mind over matter.
Right.
If somebody decides if they drink juice, they'll feel something. It first starts up here.
Come on.
You see, for her, when she goes there, it's the wind that is beating her. Her mind is there. Somebody else will want to feel the engine revving on her, but because that's where she has put her mind, that's what she will get. As a man thinketh, so is he.
And true to that, now you've dated 1 or 2 men before. How do you know you've not passed over the right man to have kids?
Mimi as Kerry, let me talk about Kerry Kagiri. My steps are ordered by God. I am 1,000,000% sure, also because of the steps that I take. So in my previous relationships, the one that I've had very recently, I decided to, do premarital counseling because, ultimately, where are we going to? And this is something, I really meet guys who are like serious. They're like, yo, I want you to be my wife, I want you to marry me. I don't meet the, let's see where this goes, let's just try this. I by God's grace and his mercy, thank you, Jesus. And so I'm like, yo, let's learn what marriage would actually look like. And during that moment is when you discover we are so different in priority.
Can I ask you a question very politely? It's very good to do the PMC classes, all right? Who pushes for them first? You?
It depends. I think in my...
Have you pushed in some cases?
I have asked for it, yeah. I've said, would you like us to do this?
That's also a problem. Meaning you're telling the man he is not taking the lead. Never put the man under that pressure, all right? Let him take that lead. Position yourself to push him to say, I want to go for premarital counseling. But if you tell a man, let's go for premarital counseling, there's a problem. Of course, there are the men who are taking 25 years. But if within a few months you're already telling the man, let's do this, I'll tell you for sure the man will put his feet on his shoulders and take off.
Okay. But someone has come off to my face, like, I'm serious about this. I want this to go to marriage. I'm not just here for games. And I'm like, yeah, so what would that take? So if you ask me what would that take, I'm like, let's sit down and let's see. Are we... Because there are questions that you won't naturally ask each other when you're out on your own. But these spaces bring out those kind of conversations. So if you ask me what will it take for it, I would tell you the first thing is put a ring on it. No. I'll say, let's do a class. Let's learn what does where you're saying you want to go look like. And can we go there together?
But premarital counseling, we do premarital counseling as pastors, but that comes after an engagement.
That's too late.
Why is it too late?
That's the problem. You've already committed. You're practically doing pre-mat as you're rushing through wedding planning things. But and that's the cause of marriages that are staying for 3 months, 4 months.
No.
And I'm saying that
it is not demonic to break an engagement.
It is not.
In fact, premarital counseling is not just you're about to get married. Another side of premarital counseling is to open your mind to the fact that, or the possibility that you actually may not be compatible. Yeah. So, yes, you can be planning what you'd rather have a broken engagement than a broken man.
But you need to focus. I feel like if you're doing it right before the wedding and you're thinking about the logistics of the wedding, you're thinking about the logistics of where you're going to live, instead of just when you're dating and actually having real, raw conversations that you would naturally have, it's my preference. It's not necessarily the right thing. I just think it's my preference. And it saved me a lot of time and a lot of energy. And if someone is serious, why not spend that quality time in those kind of conversations? The goodness that I would say that I have is that I have exposed to me very many people who would guide and lead in that direction in terms of successful marriages. Like there's one called Symbis. Symbis is Save Your Marriage Before It Starts. It's just a couple. They could be your friend and you're with this person and you're going through what personalities do you have, what do you have. And for me, it's also grown me a lot. And I think I've learned where I need to work on this.
I totally agree with you on that one. What I'm talking about is not that that's a bad thing. When you make a man feel that he's not in control in as far as making decisions.
Control came up again, guys.
Yeah, that he's not in control of himself. That, you know what we'll say to ourselves? Kwani udema nafikiri sijui hizi vitu.
But that's a you problem. Because that's not what I'm communicating. If that's what you're getting from it, then that's a you problem.
Can I ask you, I think you can answer this question. All right?
Can you give us a show together?
How many premarital counseling sessions have you gone for?
2.
So 2 different men.
Yes.
So you are the constant.
Damn.
All right? You are the constant.
Yes.
That's my answer.
Aya, sawa. You guys, Aya, not to put a judgment, but Kerry, from me, so much. From me personally, I think listening to you talk about purity in that level, in a world where people like me and Jacob have accepted that virgins are extinct.
But she wasn't talking about purity.
No, she's talked about purity, like deliberately. Kuna secondary virginity, whatever. That's what.
I thought she was talking about not getting pregnant.
Yes, and not get. She said that she has deliberately made the
decision. Opening up your wound to a person to get ready. Let her put that thing up.
So she has not opened her womb.
And put that part insert here.
She has not opened up her womb to anyone, and I think that deliberateness is a beautiful thing to listen to in today's world, and you deserve credit for that.
Absolutely.
And for the good
Don't give Jesus. I can't take the credit.
But you have to be obedient.
Mimi kiwacho tumeona devices. But yeah.
Kerry actually is tumefunga. Kerry is actually very good vibes. Kerry when alisema atachelewa kidogo nikamuuliza labda nikafikiria atapotea. If we would have someone, we have a very able pilot anaitwa Alex aende amchukue, and Kerry's answer ilinifurahisha sana. Aliza niko na gari yangu, it's a German machine, unless akuje.
We are sorry, forgive us.
Akuje washindani aniambia hiyo labda
lakini mkanyeka 20 minutes nikitafuta hii place anyway after this but it's okay niwasamea na watu wengine wakazima simu.
Sasa the beauty, first of all, asanteni sana.
Thank you. Class closing remarks.
Sindio nataka kusema, first of all, you did the most. Kutokea means a lot, and your points I trust. Sidhani hii panel tungefanya hii show bila hii panel kabisa. You have a YouTube channel.
Yes. It's called The Dating Stories, And I set it up because I really want to understand the dating scene, like literally from people's experiences and conversation. You get to learn so much. And also just a place for people to vent. Kuna watu wanakama hapo wanapatia story ingine hapo uko like, what? And then some people are like, oh, I can relate with that. Or that's where I went wrong. Or that's where I went right. So as well, trying to do balanced conversations, trying to understand what that space is, but also trying to amplify dating well and having a really good relationship. And that can even end by saying, by the way, okay, let's not get married to each other. Why not, tuache. I think that's a very, very cool thing. So it's called The Dating Stories. Please like, share, subscribe, join the channel. At Kerry Kagiri is also tagged there, but it's called The Dating Stories.
Sa pole pole because hakuna kitu mtu amesikia.
The dating story. The dating stories.
On YouTube.
Okay. Sawa. Bishop, our producer, make sure your link iko hapa. You also.
Did you do that? That's so nice. Thank you.
Venus does trainings, na online webinars. In fact, for the most part, you've done them for free.
For the better, and I think that's where we met on that platform with Jacob.
Yes.
I think since when COVID happened, the people are breaking, people are cracking. Like there was so much happening, marriages were breaking up, and I just went in full throttle because of course we are all confined into our houses, and we have really managed to get through. I actually during that time I was even doing free counseling. Yeah. Sessions, and I worked on so many people.
Okay.
I think after the last week's show, in as much as people were also throwing stones, I got a lot of requests from men, people who are going through breakups. They want to be, those who really wanted to learn and they want to save their marriages. I may not be perfect, but we are all entitled to how we process life. Yeah. So what I just want to say is that yes, counseling works, and if we can just accept that we need sometimes to be pulled up, that would be good.
Asante.
Yeah.
Asante. Asante sana. Robert Burale is a super MC. Very nice corporate gigs. Unafanyanga safi. Not to ignore that Kerry is also a refined MC. Uni baba yao.
Na deni tia job.
Walai.
I love you.
By the way,
I love you too.
Robert is a coach, a pastor, na MC. MC mimi personally.
Image consultant.
Image consultant pia. Tuna vile ametushainia leo manze kwenye nini? And an author. Unasema author, how come sijale hands on books zako?
Nakuletea, I've written Mask Off from the Strip Club to the Pulpit.
Okay.
365 with the Coach, The Three Hearts of a Man.
Okay.
And you're about to release I'm Reluctant But I Will Go.
Una stock na Nuria?
Yes.
Una stock na Nuria?
Nuria have my books. Best bookstore that you can ever have.
Bule mbona ujai niambia kitabu ya?
The Three Hearts of a Man, doing very well at Nuria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa.
You can never go wrong with Nuria.
Tambia ni plug. He's the one who slid me in.
And by the way,
local authors.
Correction. I'm not an MC. I'm a host.
You're a host. There's a difference.
All right.
Okay.
MC ni...
How many MCs stick to the works, no?
Oh, you're the MC. Aya, sawa. Jacob, mnamjua, tumetoka pia na Jacob. Okay, hapa ni Kerry peke yake hatujakuwa naye show. Nation na hapa.
I'm so glad to be here right now, and I'm just so happy.
Karibu sana. Jacob has the best-selling book from Sijuni 20.
Yes.
How many years? 2022. Wow. Best-selling. Kama ujashika Unplugged one, mi usema, if someone calls me ati and I go through problem ya relationship, I recommend them Unplugged. Na ile feedback wao share, I think I've shared with you screenshots, the feedback without violating the privacy of them, and the feedback has been legit.
Absolutely.
Like direct impact. Kazi poa sana. Also, thank you very much for also always making time for us. Wakati schedule zimekubali, tunashukuru sana for you coming through for this episode. Na ndio tusiende pia sana. I believe tumepeana profile ya kila mtu. Tunaweza pata parting shot ya 1 minute each kwa conversation yetu tumekuwa na, which I believe is very fruitful. But before that, I also like to special thank you to the team that puts this together. Tukianza na Bishop, uko juu kwa producer. Tuko na nani Kerry anawapigia makofi. Bishop does the most. Ukiangalia logo yetu ya edits, thank you for the props za kazi yenye inafanya kwa editing.
Fantastic.
Bishop anafanya hiyo na coordinate team. Kwa kamera tuko na Paul Peke, jamaa mmoja mpolite sana, ana making sure production yetu inakaa neat na the unique shots mnaona. Leo pia tuko na Sule. Sule has been extended to us by SPM Buzz ya Butita, because leo ilikuwa conversation ngumu sana, but ukiona job yenye wamefanya behind the scenes, kazi poa sana. Tuko na Tony Roland. Tony Roland is YY's baby brother, who is also gifted, and I hope he gets to share his story. He has learned a skill in the shortest time possible, and he's doing wonders as far as production is concerned. Huyo anafaa peane testimony yake kwa Gen Z wote. Alafu tuko na leo tuko na kijana pia, our latest addition to the team, Trey Regans. Trey Regans is also gifted, the latest addition in our team. So far, those are the gentlemen responsible for putting this together. Asanteni sana to our guests, and it is at this juncture tutaanza na parting shot. Peke atani guide. Tuanze pande gani? Tuanze na Jacob Aliet. Just one word in summary.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I think this conversation was very good, and hopefully we should have some sort of what we call rapprochement, particularly between the science and the church or the religion. I agree a lot in terms of the way religion looks at marriage and relationships. But what I say as someone who follows evolutionary by psychology, all human behavior is rooted in survival. People do, and human beings engage in purposeful behavior. If your wife is cheating on you, there's a purpose, there's a reason she's doing that. So people need to understand human behavior from an evolutionary psychology perspective, and then we blend it with the religion, which is much more normative. It recommends the way people should behave in the society. So we need to understand why, and then we need to look at what ought to be happening. So thank you for the time, and I think it was very useful for me.
Karibu. Asante sana.
So good. The smarty pants. For me, two thoughts come to mind when I'm told to give a party shot. The first one is, choose how you show up for yourself and for your family. If you ended up in a blended family situation, choose how you show up for those people. At the end of the day, they are people. And it's very important that you don't let the bile between your parents or the bile, within the family drag you in. Do not inherit beef. Just inherit property, inherit other things. Secondly, for women who are my age, and of course the fire is burning, your body is burning, all these things are burning, it's possible to walk in purity. It's possible to seek God to strengthen you. It's possible to find an activity to do. What I've realized about those feelings that they pass. And so you just have to find a way, figure out. I have a calendar by this. Sometimes everyone is telling me, oh my God, you're glowing, you're looking beautiful. I just check, I'm like, oh, I'm ovulating. Hide. Go, lock your house, throw away the key. Because it is at this moment that you shall be impregnated. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. Let's be honest. So the body God gave us, He gave us all those feelings. They are good feelings. You don't have to act on them. God is able to keep you, and is able to help you find a partner, and is able to help you, and let Him help us. Let's seek Him first. Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me one more time. I have so many things to say, but let me just close at that because it was one word. One word is, God loves you so much. If you don't have Jesus, you're going to go to hell. No, you're going to hell. Okay, I'm done.
Asante sana.
That was a summary, not a parting shot, but it is well. For me, we have said a lot of things here today. You may disagree with some of the things we have said, but even if you disagree, going back to the trolling some people gave her, you do not have to be vulgar. You don't have to insult, abuse somebody because you disagree with somebody. You can be very constructive in your disagreement, and don't just insult somebody because you have access to free Wi-Fi.
So I really love this because at any one time we need to have that voice of reason. Relationships are about synergy. Yeah. And I love what Aliet is doing, teaching people what the fathers never did. I love what, the concept behind leaving no man behind, because men have been cracking. There's been so many suicides, in terms of the male gender. I love the fact that she can encourage people, to stay in purity. What I just want to place here is a challenge. Can we now start training people let's have the workshops where we don't have to really, it's good when the men are kando, but I think this throwing stone thing is because men, there's a way they camped somewhere and they're like, usikuje kutu advice. But I feel we can also save relationships that are struggling. So I just want to pose, a challenge to all of you that I think going forward, we need to have more workshop where we can have, there's someone who's doing mental health talks where people come and share their experiences and people get to learn. We can also bring in relationships that are struggling, and you can bring in your expertise. Jacob can come and advise that man, and I can bring in the psychological perspective, work with the women. She can, so that we build the relationships. Because I think going forward, if this is not done, then relationships are going and marriages are going to become extinct.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Asante sana, all of you. Alafu, if you want a link, if you're looking for a link to Jacob's book, Bishop has made sure iko hapa chini. If it's not there, we blame him collectively. There's a direct link to Nuria on how you can get a book. Kama unatafuta link ya other content from Kerry Kagiri, her YouTube channel, Bishop pia make sure imeandikwa vizuri sana hapo chini. Kama haiko, Robert Burale pia akona any contact information you need to access him, iko hapa. Bishop make sure iko hapo, na pia the same applies to Venus Kyengo. Bishop make sure iko hapa chini. So kwa description ya hii video, tukikuelezea what the video is about, our guests, any material you need, Bishop make sure iko hapo chini.